At this time, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Wednesday, May 27th, 2015 council meeting. It's approximately 6:05 p.m. This evening, we'll have the invocation by Pastor Mark Tonnesy. Is that how you say that, Mark? Sorry. Pastor of the St. Andrew's Lutheran Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance with Vice Mayor Shelley and the Police Explorers. Would you all please stand?
Let us pray. Almighty God, creator of all that we are and have, bless the public servants in this government of Homestead, that they may do their work in the spirit of wisdom, charity, and justice. Help those who hold the power understand that it is a trust from you to those they serve. And so we ask in your mercy, grant us good and just governments and grace to live and serve each other in unity and peace. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. A roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Here.
Councilman Burgess?
Here.
Councilwoman Woolman?
Here.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Here.
Mayor Porter?
Here. At this time, I'd open up the public comment section. If you'd like to make a public comment, you're welcome to come at this point, and ask that everyone please limit it to a 2-minute time frame. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is David Goodwin. And my residence is at 829 Southwest 7th Street. The reason that I'm here, and I want to thank you, Mayor, and your council members for allowing this, is the fact that I have a problem and I need some help. And after thinking about it at several different levels and receiving some encouragement and some guidance from people that live here and they're interacting with the city, I decided that this was probably the best way to do it, as opposed to what I did 20 years ago, which had everybody mad at me when I filed a lawsuit against y'all. This is basically the problem. I'm alone. Next year, I wish next year. Next week I'll be 69 years old, or next month I'll be 69. I've got several projects here in Homestead to take care of. One is my house at 829, the other one is on 4th Street. I have had a lot of cooperation from the CRA, and they have encouraged me to work with them, and I'm really thankful for that. But the problem is basically this. At my residence at 829, I went through a foreclosure. I lost out with my battle with with Bank of America and Fannie Mae and all that sort of stuff, and a legal law firm, and they took everything I owned and tossed it out on the street. So I had to move back into Homestead. I am in the process of trying to get things under control. Code, I was called before Code. I met with them. I tried to explain my situation, just basically in terms of what has occurred since I've moved there. I have 4 police reports here as documentation. If you want to see that or get copies of it, I have no problem with that. It's public information. In terms of thefts, inside my home, outside, off my cars, the whole 9 yards. Even I got one thing where they took the plate off a trailer and drove the car on the turnpike, and I've got to deal with that coming up. When I went before Code, I was letting them know that I needed time. I need time. It's only me. I don't have any help. It's just me. But I've got a mindset of getting things done. They just wouldn't listen. Said I have 30 days, and it's impossible because when I was talking to the CRA, just in terms of getting my fence up, which I wasn't able to convince the building department to let me put my fence back up, even though I had a photograph, it was up before, and I had the permit and all that. So they wouldn't let me renew the permit, put the fence back up, so I had to get a survey.
Mr. Goodman, let me interrupt you one second. Those are issues that should be handled through the manager's office, and the CRA people are here. There's really not much that we can do tonight about that. Would you mind letting us set you up with, Steve, are you familiar with this issue, with Mr. Goodwin's issues, or who is?
Well, I'm familiar with his, he has a commercial enhancement grant application pending, and I'm familiar with that. I'm not familiar with the code issue.
Okay, well, code enforcement is in the back. Captain, can you talk with Mr. Goodwin right now tonight? And if you don't get any satisfaction, please come back. But these are all related to the staff's ability to deal with the problem, because it's really at their level right now. So would you mind meeting with them?
No, I have no problem with that at all. If we can set up a meeting tomorrow, amongst all the other things I have to do, because I still have to work
I understand.
on my projects.
There's the captain right there. She's in charge of code enforcement, and she'll meet with you right now.
Okay, fine.
Let me just state for the record, Mr. Goodman, I know that according to my messages that I guess you had indicated that you called me to talk with me. Is this what your reference was, this issue that you're bringing up now?
Yes, it was a reference to the 829 Southwest 7th Street.
Issue, okay.
Yes.
So I just want to put on the record that you did contact me, but you did not express into detail with my assistant of what the issue was. So are you still want to meet with me, or are you going to go through this process?
Listen, you have to understand, I'm an old man, and I am totally open to any assistance that I can get. I mean, when I talk about I have no help, I've got to wash the dishes, do the laundry, and my other projects. So I'm totally open.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the issue that you're referring to tonight is what you called me about. Is that what it is? Okay, thank you.
And that's the major issue, 829, because the other stuff is in progress.
I got you. Thank you. I will reach out to you.
Goodman. Thank you, Mr. Williams. Anyone else? Any other public comments at this time?
Again, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And you have a good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, citizens. I just had a situation where I couldn't explain something. And there was a young lady who's helping her mother with her disabilities. Her mother is in a wheelchair. And she just happened to be pushing her mother to the grocery store on the corner of Northeast 6th Avenue and Canal Drive, where the sewage plant is. Just so happened a couple of weeks ago it was raining, and she had to go out into the street because the sidewalk at that location in that corner is underwater. And it has been such for an extremely long period of time. So she asked me, why is it such that the sidewalk is flooded and she has to go out in the streets? So I couldn't explain that because I knew honestly that it had been that way for quite some time. Is there any resolution to this problem that it can be dealt with expediently, or is that going to be an ongoing thing?
I'm good. Julio. Just let's, would you meet with the gentleman? Because we've got a fairly long agenda. He's the man in charge of that department. Julio Bray right here. Raise your hand. That's the man you need to talk to. He'll explain everything for you and get you an answer. It's the timing, all that. Is that okay?
I greatly appreciate it, sir.
All right, sir. Can we just get your name and address just for the record?
Willie Wamble, 1111 Adams Avenue.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh. Ms. Wallman? Ms. Wallman?
I just wanted to say that every time I report that, it's fixed, and then as soon as it rains, it happens again. So there has to be something more than just fix it temporarily, because it's an issue that keeps coming up over and over and over, and I know I've reported it several times, so I'd appreciate maybe a little extensive research as to what really is going on.
I know part of the problem, we've got a question as to water management holding excessive amounts of water underneath the ground surface, and it's affecting the ability for the water to permeate into, still it's a problem. But it's being, my understanding is it's being exaggerated a little bit because of the water management holding excessive amounts of water. But still, we don't need water in the middle of the street, so. Yes, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen, members of the board, fellow citizens, and our newest little intern I see behind the seat there. My name is Matthew Oakey, longtime
My chief of staff.
Yeah, right. Longtime Homestead resident. Just wanted to knock down 2 or 3 little real quick issues. Is the difference between 2-minute and 3-minute, is that just arbitrary? Because it seems like every meeting it changes. Sometimes you say it's 3, but then there's 2 minutes pop up. Tonight you're actually saying it's 2 minutes and 2 minutes is popping up.
It's predicated on the amount of the agenda to try to speed things along. That's basically the only reason.
All right. To this date, which is now 5 months running, I still have not received any kind of written verification from your legal department on the 790 issue with pocket knives coming in here. My next step is to go statewide. I would appreciate if I could get some kind of anything from you, from your legal department, stating why you feel you're standing on solid ground regarding that issue.
You want to respond, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I think we've made our position very clear that we do feel like we're well within our rights to confiscate weapons and not have them come into the council chamber. If the council would like us to draft a letter to this gentleman, explain that to us, we'd be happy to do it. But we generally don't give legal opinions to outside parties. We give them to the council. That's our client. If the council would like us to draft an opinion and send it to them, I'm very happy to do it. It's up to the council.
Any objection from the council members on drafting the letter? Okay, sir. Please do.
If you just provide the clerk with your address, I'd be glad to send you a letter.
Yes, sir, I will. Just for clarification, you have absolutely no right to confiscate any weapons unless they're an illegal weapon. You can say, if you think you can, that they can't come in. You don't have the right to confiscate them unless a crime has been committed.
Why don't we do this to make sure that I answer your question exactly? If you could send the clerk the question that you have in writing, and that way I'll make sure I answer it, the question that you have, all right?
Sure.
So that we try to put this to rest. Thank you.
All righty. And I also was going to, I didn't know the gentleman was going to say that. I was going to ask about the flooding, because it was dry prior to, I believe, Wilma, when they first put the sidewalks in. And I remember driving through 4 foot or 5 foot of water, because I had a high truck, when Wilma came on that road. I think that's 6th Avenue. And the deepest part was pretty much in between where the policemen get their gas and that corner where the BJ's is. It's been since then that area has been wet and never been dry, pretty much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else at this time?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and fellow citizens. My name is Dr. James Eric McDonough. I live at 32320 Southwest 199th Avenue. I'm here, I just had a simple question. Maybe I could get some clarification on it. I filed a public records request about 2 or 3 months ago for the records pertaining to the policy of who deletes comments on Facebook. And I also asked for who had deleted my comments and who had blocked me from posting on the Homestead Police Department's Facebook page, as well as my comments being deleted off the city's Facebook page and the mayor's Facebook page. My understanding is that these are public records, and to do such is a violation of Florida Statute 119.
Madam Clerk, do you have anything? Did you receive anything?
Yes, we received the public records request, and I have to go back through the file to see what the response was. I can't tell you off the top of my head.
Okay. So I guess you'll have to get with the clerk so she can clarify that.
So is it fairly common to delete comments and block people from posting? I'm just curious because this seems like it's a prior restraint and a violation of the First Amendment.
I don't know, Mr. Attorney, is there?
I'm not familiar with the exact circumstances of where he posted and what he deleted, but Patty will find the public records request and we'll follow up on it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been 2 or 3 months now, and the law requires it to be acted on immediately, and this has gone past the reasonable time, which is a violation. I didn't want to have to bring a public records lawsuit, but if you could get that for me, I'd really greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? You're welcome to come forward. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. I'll move on. The next item, we have a presentation from Commissioner Suarez referencing the at-grade rail or above-grade rail. Commissioner? What are you doing hiding outside? You need a mic, handheld mic, Commissioner? Right here, Nick.
Stalling for time, Mr. Mayor, Councilman, partly because of, my assistant is setting up some of the renderings, and partly because we're expecting Congressman Carlos Curbelo to be here momentarily. In the order of things, I always defer to my esteemed representative, Kiani McGee, who hails from this area. So I'll step off the mic if that's okay. I saw that in the agenda you had a reference to my son, Francis Suarez. That happens a lot with me. You know, they say they want to have a very energetic young Commissioner Suarez, and they always mistake myself for my son. So I don't object to having him on the agenda. But anyhow, without any further ado, I think that the prime mover, before I make my brief presentation and acknowledge some of the other public officials that are here, I don't want to steal the representative's thunder. I know that Mayor Bell has, her husband has left his boat way down there in the Keys somewhere so that she could be here with us, and that's great honor to all of us. And of course, Jim McDonald, who's a councilman from Pinecrest and who's also the head of transportation for the League of Cities. So without any further ado, Mr. Mayor and Councilman, if I may, I'd like Representative McGee to begin the presentation.
And Commissioner, if I could, as we're setting these displays up, it's really important that our community sees the concept as well. The way they're setting them up now, it's going to only be to the council. So,
correct.
I mean, we can...
JC, put them in a way that they can see it from an angle and that the audience can see them, please.
And we have a diagram as well. So main thing is to make the presentation to the community. Representative, but we can wait if you guys want to. I mean, we can move forward in our agenda if you really seriously want us to wait. We're giving you the opportunity to speak first.
Mr. Mayor, the congressman is represented here by his assistant, Alana, so if I may just check with her for a second. I believe we also have a time constraint on the part of Representative McGee, so we're constrained on both sides.
Representative, go right ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to the council and to the members and the community members of the great city of Homestead. It's truly a pleasure to stand before you this day. Again, my name is Keone McGee. I represent District 117 in the Florida House. And Mr. Mayor, I just want to say, before I begin, I thank you to you and to the council for submitting the proclamation, the resolution, as I may say, in part of this campaign, where we're asking the county of Miami-Dade to deliver us the rail. As everyone knows, we in 2002, we were promised a rail. The county actually told us essentially the only thing we had to do was to submit a half-cent tax, and that the people of South Dade would receive a rail. And Mr. Mayor, and to the council, I can tell you as we stand here today at this defining moment, the county has breached its promise, has tinkered with the trust of the people of South Dade. As we stand here, Mr. Mayor, we do not have a rail. And I just want to say thank you again because, your efforts along with the council signifies that South Dade is united. And I can tell you $2.5 billion later, without a rail, we are still fighting. Mr. Mayor, there was a Harvard study that was released 3 weeks ago. And inside of that Harvard study, we found out that the great people of Homestead was correct when they stated that the commute time from Florida City Homestead to downtown Miami in rush hour traffic was just ridiculous, and that it affected their quality of life. We now know through that Harvard study that was released that, in fact, the commute time, the lengthy commute time, actually increases the possibility of poverty. It also increases the poverty rate within our communities. In addition, Mr. Mayor, and to the council, it is within that Harvard study that showed us that upward mobility is under attack when commute times are lengthy. And I can tell you that our children, your children and community children, they are being left out of everything that Miami-Dade County has to offer. For instance, Miami Beach, the Design District, Vizcaya, the Perez Art Museum, the Port of Miami, the Seaquarium, the American Airlines Arena, the Miami Science Museum in Key Biscayne. All of those arts and sciences locations and excitements and entertainments are not available to our children, which leads us to a point where we feel that we are being unequally treated by the north of this county. I've had an opportunity to speak with the MPO. And Mr. Mayor, you were present as you sit representing this great city, that we made a passionate plea. We laid out the facts. I've met with the MDX. I've met with the Miami-Dade Transit. We've met with so many people to get them to understand that the plea of the South is real, that we are growing by 2040. We would have grown by 40%. We are the fastest growing segment of Miami-Dade County. And yet the cries of our people are not being heard. And as I close, I would like to turn over the mic with permission from the mayor and permission from the council to the great mayor of Cutler Bay, Mayor Bell, who can also speak to this issue because she too was and is on the front lines of making sure that the Metro Rail is brought down to our community in order to give our people an opportunity to expand, to explore, but more than anything, to enjoy all of what Miami-Dade County has to offer. And with that, Mr. Mayor, with your permission and with the council permission, I would like to defer this remaining time to the mayor of Cutler Bay.
You have all the time you need, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Representative McGee. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Our 44,000 residents in Cutler Bay, when we started in 2006, becoming the newest residential city in the county of 35 cities, we had 30,000 residents. We have grown by 40%. In that 40%, now everyone screams the worst problem that we have is traffic. I've been looking at this issue and sitting on various commissions to look at this issue since 2006, since we became a city. And we talk about it, and we talk about it, and talk about it, and nothing gets done. I'm so excited that now we're here and we're talking about it to the point where we can get something done. We really need to make a change in how we transport our residents. When we had a virtual town hall meeting in our town, in Cutler Bay, with the commissioner, with the state representative, and with our Congressman Corbello, Mayor from Florida City, Mayor Wallace, weighed in that it takes some of his constituents 2.5 hours each way by bus to get downtown to work what I probably is known as a $8, $10 an hour job, and 2.5 hours back. That's unacceptable. We were promised Metro Rail, and then we were given the bus. And the bus is not working for us. And we have in Cutler Bay, we have designated transportation hub at Southland Mall for just this very thing, to bring in residential communities, to bring in more people to live near mass transit, and to be able to get to jobs so that they can live their lives like everybody else should and not spend 5 hours on the highway. This is a huge issue. It's something that I think is the most important issue that we have to face in South Dade. I'm very concerned when we have summits for transportation in the county and we're left out of the conversation. And it was supposed to be all the way here. It was not supposed to stop in Kendall. So I echo our state representative's comments, and you'll hear more. And I really think that this is something that we have to take action on and not discuss any further. And I thank you for your time.
Okay. Good evening. I'm James McDonald. I'm a council member from the village of Pinecrest. And thank you, Mayor Bell, for handing me the mic to say a few things. And Commissioner Suarez, my old friend, and Representative McGee. I also am the chairman of the League of Cities Transportation Committee. And I want to give you I'm really pleased to be here tonight on behalf of the League, even though our president is sitting on the dais. But I'm here on behalf of the League because we're pleased that you are discussing transportation down here. The League created its committee a couple of years ago. And I think everyone who lives in Miami-Dade County realizes that traffic is terrible. It's gotten out of hand, especially for you down here. It's terrible getting to downtown and anywhere else. The League has been focused on this issue, and I'm not here and I know what Xavier is Commissioner Suarez, one of the thinkers on the commission, and he's going to give you a presentation which merits your consideration. But one of the things we're doing as the League of Cities is we took a look at a countywide situation. What can we do as a league? And the thing that we are pushing for is to change how we do business in this community with respect to how we plan for transportation. In other words, we want to reorganize what is known as the Metropolitan Planning Organization, the MPO. And that organization has really let the community down, the county down, because we don't have comprehensive planning. You're victims of it here. As Mayor Bell said, there were promises made years ago about Metro Rail. Whether we get Metro Rail down here in the near future,
I don't know. But what we do know is we're going to go nowhere in this community unless we can reorganize the MPO to be a truly comprehensive planning organization that has representation from the major cities, those with 50,000 or more, which currently we have. We need to slim it down from having the 13 members of the county commission dominate out of 23. We need to increase the representation of small cities. We want to have the county commissioners on it, but not all of them, because the reality is, if we look at the scorecard and the report card for the last 20 years, we're seeing it, the transportation we have, the mess we have. So we've got to reorganize it. And one of the things the league would request is your support as a commission and I know Representative McGee, and we'll be going back to the legislature in January, because a bill float was in the House and the Senate, didn't quite make it this year since they all took an early vacation. But the MPO reorganization is critical for the long-term transportation solutions that we need in this community. We need the planning. We need South Day to be looked at, because we know the growth is going to be here. We've got to look for the funding, and it's got to be done comprehensively, not everyone looking out for their own piece of the pie. So that's what we're going to be doing as a League of Cities coming up for this session of the legislature. So again, thank you for allowing me a few minutes to say a few words to you, and I will turn it over to whoever is next in line. Mayor Wallace.
Thank you. To Mayor Porter and the Council of Homestead, thank you so much for giving us a minute here to express our concerns about an item that concerns everybody in South Dade, and that is the inadequate transportation system that we endure. Florida City, like the city of Homestead and other cities in South Dade, we all passed resolutions supporting either Metro Rail or light rail extension to our community. It's an absolute must. Though we're all committed with producing good paying jobs in our own backyard, that's forever our goal. In the meantime, our people have to get where the jobs are. And in the case of using the current transportation system, that's an exercise in futility. I think Mayor Bell mentioned the story of my son who had a job downtown. It took him 2.5 hours to get there. And I said to him, son, you can go to Fort Pierce and have an hour to spare. That's absurd in Miami-Dade County, and that's a true story. So that's a little isolated indication of how tough it is for somebody to live in deep South Dade and get to where the jobs are. So I join all of my colleagues and Representative McGee, commissioners, and all the mayors who support this idea. We have simply got to stand up and be heard. There's an old saying that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Well, sometimes that's absolutely true, and I think it's time for us to not squeak but yell in deep South Dade. So I join Mayor Porter and all of my mayors in South Dade. We've banded together to push for this issue, because if we don't push, it'll never happen. I'm sick and tired of hearing what can't be done. You know, can't be done is excuses for people who don't do it. There are others that see something that needs to be done and simply do it and not come up with excuses as to why it can't be done. So I challenge all the powers that be to make transportation available to the people of South Dade. They deserve it. We pay taxes. We want to work, and we want to get to where the jobs are. So thank you, Mayor Porter, for your role. You've been in the forefront of this battle, and we are proud to join you in trying to get transportation adequately produced for South Dade. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Eugene Flynn, Mayor of the Village of Palmetto Bay, my second tour. Unfortunately, in that second tour, you know, nothing's really changed in regards to the transportation issue other than traffic's gotten worse. And I've seen it develop in Palmetto Bay. People can't get down US 1. They're looking for other routes. They're getting taxed to death on the turnpike. There's no strategic plan. We're left out. And the Village of Palmetto Bay unanimously, please consider us, well, as we've all discussed, we're all partners in this. We either push together to get a realistic 21st century infrastructure in for the future we know is coming to Palmetto, not only to Palmetto Bay, but in entire South Dade, or we'll all just sit in traffic together until we can move out and find places that will invest. So it's not can, it's must, it's not even must. it's just, you can't do it if you don't have the infrastructure that follows along. So I'm not going to repeat everything that's said here other than to be here and represent the assurances that Palmetto Bay stands firmly alongside with. We all suffer together on US 1. We all suffer together, and it's time for Miami-Dade County as a whole, the state of Florida, even the federal government to get in line with us and make sure that development is appropriate, the infrastructure is there, and we address the transportation needs. If not now, then it's going to be never, and that's not an answer. So thank you, Commissioner Suarez, for your leadership on this. Thank you, Representative. Thank you, fellow mayors. I look forward to continuing to work the fight, but thank you for allowing me these few minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mayor.
One more, Mayor.
One more, Mayor?
Came from the farthest north. So.
You got stuck in traffic.
All the way from the city of South Miami, which is the only one that's in my district, I guess. Please, Mayor. Except for Pinecrest, of course.
Good evening. Actually, I had to come down from FIU. But, you know, South Miami is blessed by having a metro rail station inside our city. And it is an absolutely wonderful thing. My daughter goes to up to her high school every morning on the metro rail. I can go down and visit the commissioner at his downtown office in the metro rail. I have not driven to the airport since the orange line was put in. We just go down to the metro rail station, take a right to the airport and back. It's phenomenal for business. People can get down to South Miami from the airport and the metro rail. I mean, it's just an incredible blessing to have that in our city. And so, you know, for better or worse, my daughter has a boyfriend now down in Cutler Bay, and I have to drive this kid down to his house and drop him off on a regular basis. And I wish I could just take him to the metro rail station, or he could walk from my house and get himself home. That way I wouldn't have to spend so much time in the car. But I think, you know, I'm very excited about the prospects for getting a much more efficient transit system that covers the south end of the county and gives you all the blessings that we have in the upper end of the county. So that's all I have to say. You know, I'm wishing you the best of success in making this happen. It's going to be a tremendous asset to Southeast Dade. You will be, you know, forever thankful if you're able to pull this off. And so thank you, Commissioner Suarez, for helping people envision what's possible and providing some initiative to make it happen.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think that's my cue, Mr. Mayor and Councilman. You've been patient as we paraded mayors and, in one case, a councilman from 6 cities all the way from South Miami to your fine city and actually past it from our standpoint. This is a historic day. Very soon we expect Congressman Curbelo to arrive. To have a congressman, state representative, mayors from and representatives from 6 cities all the way to South Miami come here and tell you how we feel and how strongly we feel that there has been a breach of trust. That was the article in today's Miami Today. I recommend it to your reading. Representative McGee was quoted as saying this has been, in fact, in reality, a breach of trust. The same thing has happened with the tolls. That's a breach of trust. These are highways that were built 20 years ago. They were paid for 20 years ago. Now we have to pay $8.50 to get from one part of the county to the other. That's a breach of trust because, as Representative McGee said, you cannot afford to have a minimum wage job from one end and travel from one end of the county to the other. You're giving up an hour of your wages before you get there. If you take public transportation, assuming it comes anywhere close to your home, and then we charge for parking. Can you believe that? We don't even have first come, first serve, free parking at least, you know, for these folks. This is a breach of trust that is historical. That's 30 years of history. Mayor Wallace already stated the story of his son, and it isn't just the time that it takes, it's the cost that it takes. Again, a little bit more than $8 to go back and forth. I have a member of my staff that comes from the west side of Dade County, and Joanne is here. Joanne, would you stand up? This lady It takes her the better part of 2 hours every day. And she has to have somebody give her a ride to the first stop, which is the bus and then Metro Rail. And we can't communicate when she's on Metro Rail because she's too shy to use the cellular phone. So we have to text. But a lot of people are like that. I mean, the rest of us, we have our automobiles, and, you know, the tolls are no big a deal for us. But they're a big deal for the working class of this community. And a book that I just completed and that I'm going to send to each of the members, my good friends on the council, and yourself, Mayor and Vice Mayor, I explained that about 0.5 to 1% of the unemployment rate is due to the cost of transportation. People would rather have what economists call voluntary unemployment than take a job that's going to cost you the first hour of your day in either tolls or public transportation, assuming you're anywhere close to a Metro Rail or a Metro bus stop, and assuming it doesn't take you, as it does to Mayor Wallace's son, more time than it takes to go to Fort Pierce, as he was telling me the other day. Mayor Porter said something to me the other day that I want to bring into the discussion. A busway, or an alternative to it called a BRT, even if it's a true BRT, which is really defined as something that the lights are synchronized or timed better for the buses to traverse, does not really solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem, among other things, as Mayor Porter was telling me, because the traffic in an east-west direction then gets stalled. And so we have the same traffic congestion that the rest of us experienced in Dade County. US 1, you know what we call that up north? I don't know if you call that down here. Useless one. I wrote a letter to the mayor as soon as I was elected in 2011, the same time both of us were elected, and I said, as I get out of downtown and I get on US 1 and I get to 17th Avenue, we have condition F, growth management condition. Former Councilman Joe Corradino, who has taught me most of what I know about transportation, and I'm pleased that you have him here as Development Services Director, is aware of what that means for downtown people. We can't get, in my district, we can't even get to 17th Avenue. Sometimes it could be half hour or an hour just to traverse the first 20-some blocks. Now, as stated by Mayor Wallace and some of the other mayors, the cost of transportation is prohibitive. 22%, as per the Miami Herald article, 22% of the disposable income of people in the middle class in Dade County. I see my assistant Javier there. By any chance, do you have, I'm stalling for time a little bit because Congressman Corbello is about to arrive. The rendering that I wanted to, in the renderings that we have put together of what this transportation system could look like, there's one that happens to have a stop at Cutler Bay. So Mayor Bell, if you would give it to the mayor back there, this is in honor of your city. And this is not just pie in the sky. We have funding sources. We have funding sources. Yes, yes, that would be nice. I don't know why my assistant put Cutler Bay there. There's a certain preference for the mayor. But you're welcome to take that to City Hall. I want to tell you briefly, because they're going to say, do you have the expected ridership that is required for what is a substantial investment? Not unaffordable. It's affordable with 3 funding sources that are in your packet, and I'll go through them very quickly. But I want to tell you a story of what happened with the People Mover. This is a true story, not exaggerated one bit. I was asked by Mayor Clark, as mayor of the city of Miami, to testify at the EIS hearings of the Urban Mass Transit Authority in Miami when the People Mover had to be approved with federal funding. We know that we don't have as much federal funding as we used to have in those days from UMTA or otherwise, and that's why we're very attentive to the arrival of Congressman Corbello, because I think he whispered to my rep, Kiani McGee, something to the effect of 30% of the funding might come from the federal government. And that's a lot more than my former assistant, Congressman Diaz-Balart, who's been saying that maybe you can get to 20%. So I'm hoping that Curbelo will raise the stakes here. But the story is very simple and a very interesting story. UMTA said to us in Miami, you cannot afford, and the federal government cannot afford to build a Metro Mover because our estimates are that it costs $14 per mile per rider in that system. And so I told Mayor Clark, I'm going to do my best to argue against that model, that mathematical model. So I walked in and I said, I don't quarrel. And by the way, they said, for that amount, you can take a taxi, you know. And I walked into the hearing and I said, I don't quarrel with your denominator. I know your calculations of cost are correct, but I quarrel with the numerator, your ridership estimates. And I said, I think we're going to have 10 times the ridership. So the true equation here is $1.40 per person per mile, and that's cost effective for the system. So as I walked out, someone from my staff said, Mr. Mayor, where'd you get that figure? And I said, I pulled it out of thin air. I want you to know that even though I pulled it out of thin air 20-some years ago, today the Metro Mover is the most successful component and the only really efficient component of the entire system of public transportation in Dade County. And recently, an effort by 2 commissioners to impose a fare was defeated 10-2. We have finally gotten religion in the county. We need public transportation. We need it to be affordable, preferably free.
Commissioner, can I ask you one question?
Yes, sir.
I've got a couple of questions from the dais. I know you're looking to stall a little bit. Can we ask you a couple of questions, Mr. Williams?
And the funding sources are in your packet.
Right.
The most recent one is the one proposed by Representative McKee, which is to take a substantial amount of money from the MDX. By the way, he proposes 30% of the revenues that are not bonded out. And believe me, I have poured through their finances, and they can afford a lot more than 30%. They're bonding. The debt service is $62 million, and their revenues right now are $130 million. So I'm sorry, yes.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you so much, Mayor. And I was willing to wait till the presentation was over before I asked the question because I wanted to have a full grasp and understanding of the mechanism in which what the presentation of what you all are asking as a united body to do, number one. Number two is that I've heard that from a state level and from, you know, a cohesive group of mayors here in Miami-Dade County, along with yourself, Commissioner Suarez, about a few things. And then, of course, you stated about the federal government. Where is it in the transportation in the House or the Senate as it relates to the state? Where does the state fit in this? And then what I don't hear from the equation or in the equation is our state senator. Is he involved, like Bullitt involved in this or in this coalition? Where is it at in the House as a state, you know, funded mechanism that even in the gridlock at the state level of where we with this bill, or is there a bill in the House or in the Senate as a companion, and then those who represent us in South Dade, our state senator, where is he at on this?
Well, coincidentally, I managed to make a quick stop at the senator's office on the way here. You know, if you're coming to Homestead from the east end of town, you got to start at about 4 p.m. to be sure to be here at 6. So I was able to talk to Senator
No,
Bullitt.
you have to start at 3.
Yes.
If you're coming from Liberty City, where I work.
There you go. We have the congressman here too, so I don't have to stall as much, but I do want to get into the funding formula to answer your question. The part that deals with the state of Florida is not really discretionary to the state of Florida. What I did is I made a public records request of the state of Florida as to what we sent from Dade County, Miami-Dade County, in terms of the license tag renewals every year. It's $167 million. I made a public records request. How much does it cost to do the one thing that we get from them, which is a little sticker, you know, that you put in your tag? It took them 2 weeks to figure it out per sticker. It's 5.88 cents. So I said to the legislators, to the legislative delegation, the state can keep the 5.88 cents and the cost of mailing it to us and give us the rest of the money. This is a micro analysis of the equation that we're always looking at, Mr. Councilman. This is an analysis of what we give versus what we get, and finally done at a level that is easily understandable. Now, I do have to admit, 60% of that money is earmarked for education by the state. I don't want to mess with that. That still leaves 40% or $61 million in the formula. The other $81 million, besides the money from MDX that Representative McGee is by the way, the vote in the legislature, I think he had it at 20% when he first proposed it, without any preemptive attacks on some of his colleagues, et cetera, et cetera. He got 54 votes on the first try. That's pretty close for this House of Representatives, okay? Without casting any aspersions. Now, the part that belongs to us, to the county, and I'm embarrassed to say it, but I did have a meeting with my chairman of Transportation, Commissioner Bobo, is the $81 million that we're taking from the half-a-cent sales tax to fund our Metro-Dade transit system, instead of funding it from general revenues. Our budget is $4.4 billion. I don't even want to get into the issue how much we spend on staff, because the congressman is here. So
can I, let me readdress my
so
question.
I just want to say that on that issue.
Let me just
Yes, please.
Restate my question in another way. Where are we in the state? Maybe this question is not for you. Maybe it's for our Representative McGee. So
No, he came up with the idea of the MDX money.
Let me
on the House
finish my
side,
question.
On the House side.
Let me finish my question.
Sure.
Where are we as it relates to our Senator Dwight Bullard and all of this that we're doing? Is he on board with this?
He told me he was, but I have not presented the whole plan to him. Now, part of the plan is to take some of that money that we send in the license tag renewals to the state of Florida. On the Senate side, I look, Councilman, to the my senator, my representative from my district, both of whom support it, and they think there's a really good chance next year that will pass, that we'll be able to get 40% of the $167 million. As to the $81 million that goes into the county MDT, that comes from the CITT, that comes from the People's Transportation Plan, the half-cent, Chairman Bobo, in a sunshine meeting with me, pledged to me that we could, over 5 years, which is typically what it takes to plan, design, and implement one of these, take back the $81 million. So you got 81, you got 61 from the license tag renewals, and you've got another 20-some million from MDX money. And Representative McGee tells me that that's moving very well. Remember, in the House, there's a lot of support for squeezing MDX for other reasons from the Republican side, and there's a lot of support from the Democratic side and from all of us for using some of that money for public transportation. We're just building more and more highways, and cars can't even get through. So I think the formula is very doable. And as to the federal government, I will defer to the congressman who is.
So what are you expecting out of this tonight? Is just to give us information, or what are you expecting us to do? Or what are you asking of me personally?
I really was responding to your resolution that was sent to me, supporting a light rail connector. And I want to add one feature. JC, the folks in the audience have seen it, but I want the council members and the mayor to see it. For light rail, the concept that I'm putting forth, besides the rail connector and the, could be a streetcar, besides that, we have a trail above ground, a bike trail above ground with solar panels. If I didn't have anything about solar panels, I think Mayor Stoddard would kill me. That close when it rains, so that bikers can come all the way from Florida City and Homestead all the way into South Miami without getting wet. Otherwise, people really cannot use bikes to go to work in a place like Miami where all of a sudden we might have a downpour. If I can defer at this point to the congressman.
Let's get the congressman up here, please. Thank you.
I think we should give him a round of applause, don't you? Is that allowable?
Thank you very much, Mayor Suarez. I've known him for a long time, so I call him Mayor. And thank you very much, Mayor Porter, and to the Homestead Council for this opportunity. I want to commend Commissioner Suarez because this is a problem that we have been complaining about, lamenting about as a community for a long time. Yet for the first time, bold leaders like Xavier Suarez, like Keone McGee, like Esteban Bobo are coming forward with ideas, with solutions. We all know the history of this. Promises were made and promises were broken. And the victims are the people of Homestead, the people of West Dade, really the people of Florida's 26th congressional district. And it's good to see so many other leaders here, Mayor Bell and others, Mayor Flynn, because this has to be, Mayor Wallace is there, I hadn't seen him. This has to be a collaborative effort where we all come together, we all bring something to the table, and let's put all of these ideas on the table before saying, well, we can never do that and we can never do this other thing. Let's put it all on the table, and once we come up with that local source of funding, a dedicated source of funding, then it becomes much easier for me and my colleagues in Washington, D.C., and both Republicans and Democrats are aware and willing to invest political capital on this issue, whether it's Mario Diaz-Balart, Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Alcee Hastings. We're all willing to do whatever it takes to make sure the federal government comes in and is a good partner to leaders like all of you that are gathered here today. The chairman of the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee, Mr. Schuster, visited us earlier this year. He is committed to helping our community, but first we have to help ourselves. And that is what Commissioner Suarez is trying to do. And I commend him and his colleagues on the MPO who have courageously, because the MPO has been a sacred cow here for a long time that no one's wanted to talk about and that no one has wanted to reform. But the MPO must become a more agile, more responsive entity that truly works to prioritize our transportation and infrastructure projects. And those of us who live in South Dade and in Southwest Dade need a greater voice on the MPO because this is where the greatest need is. So I want to commend the City of Homestead and all of its leaders, especially Mayor Porter, for hosting this very important event. I want to commend one of your colleagues, Commissioner Levine Cobb. I know she is committed to this issue. We have spoken about it many times. Commissioner Moss as well. I need to get together with him to talk about this. But this is the greatest challenge to our growth as a community, without question. It's time to stop talking about it, and it's time to start doing. I'm here to learn and to help. Thank you very much, Commissioner Suarez.
Commissioner, let me say one thing, Congressman. Thank you so much. And part of this, the reason for this discussion to be put on the agenda tonight was to make our community aware of things that are truly going on behind the scenes. They don't get to attend a lot of the mayor meetings that we have with Commissioner Cobb. They don't have an opportunity to see what everybody's doing behind the scenes. But if they get a chance, if our communities get a chance to realize the momentum that we have, that's what we've got to take advantage of. Make them aware of the momentum and the people that are in the room that can positively make a change. So there's no action that's going to come out of this meeting tonight, as Mr. Williams was honestly trying to find out. It's just to bring our community up to speed on the opportunity that we have. This is a funding question. Congressman, you know, your Transportation Committee in Washington, you represent a funding opportunity, the MDX, MPO. It's just we've got to coalesce around a concept of going forward and demanding better for South Dade. And the mayors that are in the room here tonight, minus Miss Mayor Lerner, she's the only one that I don't think was able to make it here. We meet on a monthly basis with Commissioner Cava, and we also are now going to be able to sunshine meeting with Commissioner Moss to really focus on this is a transportation issue in the South Dade, and not just Homestead, not just Pinecrest, not just Palmetto Bay, not Florida City, South Dade, and it is an economic development hindrance for this community. So again, this is for our communities to let them know that finally, after all these years of being promised and being lied to, in essence, we've got an opportunity, but we've got to stay engaged. We've all got to stay engaged in this. We've got our momentum, and you know, Commissioner, I know you and I have sunshine questions with both being on the MPO, and I think we posted this meeting. But I would love to see us, you know, Representative Keone McGee's trying to do it in the legislature, but I think the MPO should step up and deal with its own problems. I think as an MPO board, we should look at ourselves and figure out why are we dysfunctional, and why are we only able to do studies and expend monies for studies and very little bricks and mortar. So there's no action, and I've got to move the meeting along because we've got a fairly lengthy meeting, but what we represented tonight in the room with all the elected officials, our council individually signed the resolution. We're all on board with this. We all know that it's a huge impact on our community. So if we could kind of roll this together and kind of close this up, I would really appreciate it.
Yes, Mayor, and I just want to close with a comment. I started by saying this was a historical day in Homestead and a historical day for South Dade with this alliance that we have. I want to end with a quote, and Professor Wambo, who apparently was a professor for Keone McGee, reminded me of it. A Winston Churchill quote. He said, "I expect to be treated well by history because I intend to write it." So today we're writing history, and I thank you for your hospitality, your support, and when you nudge me at the MPO level, I always know that you're trying to give me a signal that we have to move ahead and get these things done. And by the way, the person that put on the agenda Representative McGee's item on an expedited basis at the MPO was in fact my son. So you were right to flag him, and he's here in spirit. He's actually raising money in Miami, but we won't get into that. So thank you, and God bless your city.
Ms. Waldman, did you have one thing you want to say?
Yeah. Everything's probably already been said, but I did want to thank you, Commissioner, for reaching out. I know you reached out to me as well, and we've been friends for many years. Totally respect and admire you. Congressman, State Representative, all the mayors that are in the House, I want to thank you for coming forward. Former Councilman Eddie Baronis is here, and somebody said that former Vice Mayor Losner was also here. I don't see him, but do you remember, Eddie, when Jeff Porter, myself, and you and others in 2002 fought so hard for the county just to know that we existed down here? And Eddie and I worked together on that committee, and I really admire and respect you. We have so many stories that we could probably share, but I had written down promises made, promises broken. And Congressman, I don't see you. I know you're here, but oh, there he is over there. But when you said that, I said to myself, no more will we have promises made and promises broken. I truly respect and admire all of you that came tonight. I truly respect and I truly believe that finally, those of us like Councilman Baronis and Mayor Porter and those of us that sat there so many years ago and begged for this, that we will see a difference and we will see a change. So with that being said, I just want to say my heartfelt thank you to everybody that took the time to come here. And you're in the Keys, Mayor Bell, I understand. Thank you so much. I'm going to come down with you. But thank you so much for believing in us. And Mayor Wallace, I saved you for last. last because you were a hero and you spearheaded this with Councilman Baronis and the rest of us back in 2002, and you begged for people to look at us, and we've paid our due. We've paid our taxes. We've paid, and now we deserve to be recognized. So thank you.
Commissioner, well, can't see anybody, but I want to thank all the mayors that showed up tonight. It's with all the respect for your taking your time to come down and be a part of this discussion in the Homestead, and as a turnaround, anytime that I or any of our council members can be at your disposal, please let us know. Commissioner, thank you. Commissioner, thank you so much for being here, and all the mayors. So we'll go ahead and move on the agenda.
All right. Mayor and Councilman, I beg your tolerance.
Go right ahead.
I'm just here, but let's have it. I want to give you just 10 minutes. Juanita Smith from the Homestead Soup Kitchen. You have 2 papers. One is number 1 and one is number 2. They show you a refrigerator. One is $3,000. The other is $2,300. The soup kitchen has not had a refrigerator since December. There's no way you expect to give anyone anything without having some way to preserve it. I'd like the council to take time and check it over, because the finance department promised us when they started doing the remodeling that they were going to talk to the finance and see if you could not bring us a little more money so we could have had it. We don't have it. We need it. You have the papers. Do the best you can. As these men have said, I rode the bus. I ride the bus from here to Cutler Ridge. It's an hour and a half if you go and do the busy time. And you have to be an hour all the time, and that's just terrible. But remember, you can't do something for somebody somewhere else unless you take care of your own house. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. We'll work on that for you. Let's see here, where are we? I lost my place.
Additions, deletions, deferrals.
Okay, additions, deletions, deferral, Mr. Manager?
You want to do it?
Yes,
Madam
Mayor, we'd like to remove from the agenda card number 1448, tab 13.
Okay, tab 13.
It's a generator.
Okay, tab 13 will be removed. Do we need a motion on that, Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I'd like to do one other thing, Mr. Mayor. Tab 10, 14, and 15 are all items that are related. So if we could handle all those together under the time for tab 10.
Okay.
I can read them all at one time, and you can have a vote on them at one
All
point.
right, we're going to remove, you need a motion on tab 13 to be removed.
Yes, we do.
Is there a motion? Second? Is there a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Tab 13 is removed. Moving to consent agenda. Is there a motion? Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mayor, if I
Yes,
could.
sir.
Just one quick, to the Utilities Department, just because there was a question, and I know you did send us an email following up. We had a citizen that was concerned about getting a discount as the sole provider on the one, with agenda item number, what the heck is the number there? On the consent agenda, it would have been tab number 7, Fairbanks Moore sole source of them. And we had a concerned citizen who showed up and asked if, since they were the sole provider, if we were getting any kind of discount. And since they don't get the, able to read our emails unless they request them and all that, could you just give your answer, an explanation to fulfill that gentleman's question, please?
Certainly. We were advised by Fairbanks Morse that
based on volume, that we would get a 10% discount. As well, we also don't have to pay shipping with that vendor. And other vendors, we do have to pay shipping costs. Some of the parts are very large, and shipping costs can be quite high. So that's another discount.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Just wanted to put that on the record.
No,
so
thank
that-
you.
That concerned citizen wanted to know, there it was. Thank you.
Absolutely. Public hearings, Mr. Attorney?
Please be advised that the following items on the agenda are quasi-judicial in nature. If you wish to comment upon any of these items, please indicate the item number you'd like to address when the announcement regarding the quasi-judicial item is made. An opportunity for persons to speak on each item will be made available after the applicant and staff have made their presentations on each item. All testimony, including public testimony and evidence, will be made under oath or affirmation. Additionally, each person who gives testimony may be subject to cross-examination. If you do not wish either to be cross-examined or sworn, your testimony will be given its due weight. The general public will not be permitted to cross-examine witnesses, but the public may request that counsel to ask questions of staff or witnesses on their behalf. The full agenda packet on each item is hereby entered into the record. Persons representing the organizations must present evidence of their authority to speak for the organization. Further details of the quasi-judicial procedures may be obtained from the clerk. In accordance with Code Section 2591, any lobbyist must register before addressing the council on any of the following items. At this time, council members must disclose any ex parte communications concerning any of the items on the agenda.
Sir. Yeah, tab 10. I spoke with the applicant.
Thank you. At this time, the clerk will swear in any persons who wish to testify in any quasi-judicial item.
Would you please stand and raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, please state your name, hereby swear or affirm that the information I present shall be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Thank you. You may be seated.
Okay. Tab 8 is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving a special exception requested by Wonder Games LLC to permit a video game arcade within 20, the title is wrong, hold on a second. Sorry. With 20 electronic amusement games authorized in conjunction with the operation of a pizza restaurant for property located at 1541 Southeast 12th Avenue as legally described on Exhibit A and providing for an effective date.
Anything from staff?
Yes, sir. We recommend that the mayor and council approve this. It's a special exception that we've measured under the code under section 30-45D, but it meets all the special exception criteria. What they're asking to do here is put in 20 children's arcade games in a pizzeria called Wonder Games Pizzeria. The arcade games are going to include indoor areas for children, entertainment areas, a play area, various games, and which includes these 20 video games. So it's children's entertainment that doesn't use actual money. It gives out tokens and tickets and those types of things. So more like a Chuck E. Cheese concept than anything else.
Okay. Ms. Walden, questions from council?
Is the applicant here, Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Could you come forward?
Were you sworn in, sir?
Good evening. My name is Joel Navarro. I live in Homestead. My address is 1811 Southeast 18 Terrace in Homestead. And I represent Wonder Games. Good evening again.
I'll wait till I get your brochure here
Okay.
before I speak.
This is some information about our parties, how we're going to conduct the parties, our party packages. And this is some pictures about parties that we've been having in our first location in Florida City. And then you're going to have some information about our field trip packages.
Okay, Mayor, may I go ahead?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so right now, the pizzeria does not exist, correct?
Exists, but we're not operating until we get the permits for the arcade.
It's not open, or it is open?
No, it's not open.
And have you met with any residents within the community on this? Because, I'll tell you why. Because my phone has rang off the hook. You know, there's maybe some misconceptions, there's maybe, I don't know where people are getting their information, but they're very upset.
Well,
because they don't know the concept, and I really wish that you had reached out to the community and maybe come to a couple homeowners meetings, or at least give them a sense of that it's not some sort of adult machines, you know, that they've heard that they are.
That's why I brought more information about it, more how the games looks like and how the arcade will looks like. And basically, I've been meeting parents with kids at the YMCA, where I take my kids to play baseball, and I never had any concern about it. All that I got is really good feedback, people telling me that's what we really need in Homestead. So I don't really have any issue from any resident. And again, I live in Homestead, and I live in Kidsgate area, and I got a lot of neighbors telling me that's the right business to do in Homestead. So.
But you understand that people in the community that surrounds you are very concerned. And when you say, I just saw this unlimited time in our Wonder Park and trampoline, I guess, room, how big is your facility?
Well, if you put the three locals that would add into the pizzeria, it's going to be 5,800 square feet together, pizzeria and an arcade area.
Are they connected, or are they divided, or how?
They're divided.
So you have an arcade and one...
Which is going to be connected to the pizzeria, but at this time it's divided.
So you're saying that there is an arcade...
Right.
...with one address, and then you have a restaurant beside of it.
Right.
And you want to open it, and it's not one big...
They will be communicated.
Are they now?
No, not now.
When will they be?
As soon as they get the permit to do it.
Joe, are you...
That's why we're applying for.
Okay. That's what they're applying for? Or that's...
They're applying for the special exception. Once they get the special exception, they'll be able to proceed with their concept and go through the building permits and everything else they need to complete the application.
I'm trying to picture where this is going to be. I know there used to be a little Latin restaurant, a very tiny little Latino cantina type restaurant, which is no longer open. And then there's that daycare center with where the windows are covered, which is against code, totally covered. Where's your facility going to be?
Just in front of the whole building. So it's the first, next to the Kidsgate offices, and in between Kidsgate offices and valet area.
Oh, so it's going to be...
It's going to be in the middle.
In the separate building.
Right.
Okay. And in order to play these games, do they buy, do they... I'm trying to figure out how you win these tokens.
First of all, we're planning to do a small concept as Chuck E. Cheese, but we're adding a small park where kids can go to play with their family. So we're not planning to have any kid but themselves. So it'll be a whole family together playing in our facility. So the kids are not allowed to go by themselves. And we're going to have as Chuck E. Cheese, the same system. We're going to have an employee on the main door, stamping kids and families, make sure families coming together, living together.
But how do they play the games?
It's going to be a black light system. We're going to get you on a stamp. Nobody will see what you got on your stamp. And then when you leave in, we're going to check your stamp with a black light flashlight.
How much does it cost to get in the door? That's what I'm trying to find out how do they play these games?
Well, we're going to have different things, different economic packages for families. But I mean, special prices is going to be as Chuck E. Cheese. So every token is going to be 25 cents, and every game is going to be 25 cents, where the kids can redeem tickets and get prizes. So it's going to be like this.
You know, that shopping center is notorious. Right now, we're having a lot of problems in that shopping center with kids hanging out and, you know, just it's really bad. And I'm just telling you, the community is
during
very.
the past, used to be like that, but right now we're changing the face of the shopping center, and we're bringing a family's business over there. So we have right now over there we have a karate, we have the ballet, and we have a daycare. And right now from the outlet centers we got a foundation where kids can go to after school. So that's all family business.
There's still a lot of people, a lot of. I just met with the police not a week ago, so we talked about the crime in the shopping center. I'm very concerned because the public doesn't know what it is that you're planning on doing. You know, if I had seen all of this stuff before and maybe heard you speak before, I would know more about what's going on. But you have a huge community around there between Lakeshore and the villages and San Remo, and you know, we have a big community, and you know, we want family entertainment. We certainly do. But what are your guarantees? I mean, is there an age limit at 16? Can you come in by yourself?
No.
What's the age limit?
They gotta go with their family. Family gotta go together, so there is not even 21 years old kid allowed to go by themselves. We're not gonna allow kids by themselves. Because we have a senior high school on the right on the corner, so we don't have to be involved, I mean, we don't want to be involved in any issue with them. So if they don't go with their parents, they're not allowed to go over there.
Who constitutes their family? And I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm just telling you, we've been through a lot. So, I mean, let's say somebody comes in there that's 21 years old and he's bringing in 4, 5, 16 years old. Does that constitute a family?
Yeah. If they look like a real family members, of course they are allowed to take their siblings with them. Okay. But I mean, what I really mean is we don't want teenagers playing around there by themselves. If they want to go, they got to go with their parents, because that will get you a safe place if we really take care of that issues.
I'll reserve my comments until after I hear my colleagues. Thank you.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you. It sounds like to me, Councilwoman, that two of you need to, with a community meeting or something, to dialogue about this. And it sounds like I'm hearing a very, very grave concern from your, the constituents in which, you're accountable to. We're all accountable to everybody, but we have these seats in which we see. What would you propose to do for this applicant? Do you want us to table this until he's able to meet with you and to have some kind of convenient meeting within the next 30 days or so? Because I don't want to support anything, and you brought all of these, and when you bring concerns, it's real, because you don't bring too many up here on the dais with applicants. Thank you, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
May I?
Yes, ma'am.
I would really like to have a conversation with the major and the chief. Were they consulted? Were the police? Did y'all talk to the police about this before?
Yes, we went through the DRC process and didn't have any negative comments from the police or any other department.
I think Major Kennedy's coming forward. I'm not sure. I mean, I'm all for family things. Don't get me wrong. And the ballet has really. I'm so happy that they've stuck it out over there and that they're still there and people are trying to come in. The martial arts is very successful. I mean, I can walk over there from my house in 5 minutes. But I'm worried about the whole concept.
Major.
Good evening. It was reviewed by the police department, probably signed off on as far as it being approved for the merits of it, but as we had discussed before in other meetings, there are issues concerning that shopping center and certain problems that are occurring in that shopping center now. So there are concerns about different crime problems that are existing there and being created there. So I really don't, I personally did not look at this prior to it being signed off on. But, you know, I have some questions concerning it also as far as what type of clientele it might draw, loitering, so, you know, those type of issues.
Because of the mayor's comments, I'd like to move to defer it and give us a month, sir, to, or if we have a special call, if we have some sort of other meeting, we can always bring it back earlier. But rather than me vote no, and I don't want to vote no against you, I'd rather find out what we can do, and I would like for you to come to our community meeting and address some of the residents and put their concerns, you know, at ease, because the community is very concerned about rumors that they've heard and different things that they've heard. And I think the police should be at that meeting as well.
Yes,
to.
We'd be more than happy to be there.
Okay, there's a motion to defer. Is there a second?
Mr. Mayor, I'd suggest that we, because this has been advertised, that we just continue the public hearing to the next council meeting, and that way you'll have the 30 days, and that way it won't need to be re-advertised.
Okay, so there's a second, and we're going to continue the public. Should I open the public hearing now?
Yes.
And then we'll just close the public hearing?
Don't close it, just leave it
Just
open.
leave it open, okay. So at this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing, and we'll leave it open, and
Move to continue the public hearing until
we'll
the
move
next-
to continue the public hearing.
Is there a time set, date?
next council meeting.
You want to do it at the next council meeting? So you got 30 days roughly to get with Councilwoman Wallman and the community to iron out her questions as far as, and the major, I mean, certainly the police department's key to that. Mr. Williams? Did you-
Yeah, I just have a procedural question, because I heard Major Kennedy state this. Who is the designated person to review these applications that when they come before you, that, I mean, or what is the process by which red flags will be raised as relates to something like this?
Captain Washington is our designated individual in command staff that reviews these. Usually either Captain Washington or Captain Graham. The red flags that obviously would raise these are the type of business, issues that occur or created in the neighborhood and so forth. And I can't speak for her on why she may have signed off on it. We'll definitely be getting with her to discuss why it was signed off on without further discussion.
Okay, and what are some of the troubles in that complex?
Loitering, consumption of alcoholic beverages in public, drug usage. You know, there's some gang affiliations that hang out there at times, and in the last couple of months, we've had a rash of burglaries in that general area.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's generated from that shopping center.
But in that vicinity?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I understand that, because I just wanted the major to put it on record so everybody who's listening to this knows why we're doing what we're doing. Okay, thank you.
One question, Joe. As a special exception, is there any requirement in the special exception rule that allows us to remove that special exception for repeat violations, or, I mean, can you explain if there's any fallback?
Well, the special exception criteria is a use that is only permitted in a certain district if it goes through and you're reviewed against special criteria. So that means it's not permitted by right. You've got to run it through these certain criteria. So it's not a given that it would get approved anyway. And it's from these types of discussions that you would decide whether it's for the neighborhood or not. That being said, of course, anything that is in violation, if you were to go out there and it has code violations or abnormal problems, I believe we probably could be able to revoke the special exception.
Okay. Did you want something, Vice Mayor? Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All in favor of deferral?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. We'll defer item 8.
Mayor, if you'll leave your contact information, sir, then we will be in touch, Major and I, and I'll invite you to the homeowner meetings. And also, I would like to, yeah, I understand you have a place in Florida City?
It used to be in Florida City, but when the mall was sold,
Okay.
we had to move from there.
Okay.
Because they don't want local tenants over there, so that's why we're looking for
We're
something.
going to try to make this work for you.
And I would like to say something else about it. What I know about the shopping center and research that we made before about the shopping center, all the problems were over there because the shopping center was empty. And nobody was occupying the places over there. That's why the place was, given the opportunity to commit crimes over there. So I would like you to take that on records.
You just need to let the community know what it is and confer with the police department. But we'll have those sessions. Mayor, thank you for your indulgence.
This item's been deferred, so thank you, sir. We're going to go to tab 9.
Resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, approving an amendment to a previously approved special exception and site plan request by Le Jardin Community Center, Inc. to permit an approximately 14,600 square foot K-3 charter school on 4 parcels totaling approximately 1.05 acres for properties located 135 Northwest 11th Street, 104 Northwest 12th Street, 127 11th Street, and 119 Northwest 11th Street is legally described in Exhibit A, providing for an effective date.
Staff report, Joe?
Yes, sir. We recommend the mayor and council approve this amendment to the special exception. What happened was we had a special exception that came through last year in about August 2014. It was approved that with a site plan for a charter school. Since then, we needed to amend the site plan. What happened was there's one lot that we found out for funding reasons couldn't have been included from the federal government, couldn't have been included into the parcel, so we needed to remove it. So it's an administrative, or not administrative, but we were able to remove it from the site plan. The effects of that were removing this lot 19, which is the northern lot, is a 6,800 square foot lot from the site plan. So it reduced the site from about 53,000 square feet to about 46,000 square feet. Therefore, we had to reduce the number of parking stalls from 34 to 21. There are really no changes to the function of the site except for the parking. Parking's all within requirements of code, so we're recommending approval.
Okay, questions from council? Vice Mayor?
Just so for clarification then, so it was removed for a funding issue. Is it still intended to develop that site in the future with, I don't know if there would be playgrounds still or something to that effect? And then this follow-up question deals with the parking, because I know when we had this discussion the first time, it was, the traffic congestion and things of that nature. So would that parking then be added back in if that site gets developed after this federal funding issue is resolved, or if you're going to address those two concerns?
Yeah, Eddie Barones, 177 West Mallory Drive. I'm the executive director of Le Jardin Community Center. Yeah, Councilman Shelley, that particular lot is, that whole property was purchased with some funding from the Department of Health and Human Service. And when the money was granted to us, we have to protect the federal interest in the investment that they made in that particular property. So we gave the federal government lot 19, which is in the southwest corner of the property. What we intend to do with it is just keep it as green space. We had a preliminary conversation with the zoning department on what it is that we can do at a later time. For this particular project, we're just going to exclude it to simplify it and reduce the parking spaces, which we're still in compliance with the parking. Now, I want to just make, you asked about the parking issue and the traffic issue. I think we've resolved all that. I need to say that this is, although it's a charter school K through 3, this particular building is just for our kindergarten classes. It's not K through 3 is 4 grade levels. So the traffic is going to be minimal. Particularly because our clients walk to school and they're from the local area, so they walk back and forth.
Yeah,
So
I was going to say, the traffic wasn't related to necessarily the discussion with Les Jardins product as much as it was the high school that's right adjacent to you causes most of the traffic issues. But that was the only thing I wanted to find out is, that is, I think it was like 10 plus spaces. And so to the extent that there could be any traffic as a result, that's why I just wanted to know whether or not there was still a way to leave that parking in though, or you're saying that because that lot Lot 19 has to stay completely vacant. That's why you can't add those additional spaces on that lot.
That is correct.
Okay.
Correct. And we attempted to get approval from the federal government, but it's like an act of Congress that has to give us permission, and that was impossible.
Okay.
So we decided just to exclude it from the site plan, come back before you guys, and move forward with the project.
Perfect. Thank you.
Any other questions from council? I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Anyone who'd like to speak for or against this application, you're welcome to come forward. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess? Yes. Councilwoman Wallman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Brown. It's tab 10.
I'm going to read tab 10,
you wanna
14,
do
and 15, if that's all right with you.
10, 14, 15.
Resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, granting a waiver of plat to First National Bank of South Florida for the division of property totaling approximately 1.09 acres, generally located at the southwest corner of Southwest 312th Street and Southwest 147th Avenue, as legally described in Exhibit A, providing for an effective date. Second one is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, accepting a right-of-way deed conveying title for right-of-way purposes from First National Bank of South Florida for property generally located along the intersection of 312th Street and Southwest 147th Avenue, providing for implementation, providing for an effective date. Third is a resolution of the City of Homestead, Florida, accepting a right-of-way deed conveying title for right-of-way purposes from Crystal Lake Plaza LLC for property generally located along the intersection of 312th Street and 147th Avenue, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date. If somebody would move all three items, we can vote on them together.
Okay. A staff report.
Yes, sir. We recommend that the mayor and council approve this waiver of plat. Essentially, a waiver of plat is a process that we can undertake when somebody's subdividing 6 or less lots. That's what's happening here, because in a waiver of plat or any platting process, there may be an opportunity or a requirement that the applicant dedicate right-of-way for public purposes, and that's what the other two cars are for. In this case, there needs to be right-of-way dedicated along Campbell and along of 147th Avenue, and that's what we're doing through this entire process, so it kind of cleans up everything in the area. We've reviewed it. It's all in accordance with county statutes, the waiver of plat process, and state code, so we are recommending approval.
Questions from council? I'll open up the public hearing at this time. Anyone like to speak for or against this? Mr. Lossner?
Just for the record, the applicant is present. Stephen Lossner, on behalf of the applicant. My office address is 59 Northeast 15th Street, and I am a duly registered lobbyist on behalf of this application. The only notation that I would add to this is that this parcel was part of the overall Crystal Lake PUD approval that was granted in 2004. The Crystal Lake right-of-way in one of the resolution tabs was mandated by that approval 10 years ago and is now vesting, and the bank is now dedicating additional right-of-way that would not have been available to the city had the property been developed back after the initial approval. City has determined that some additional right-of-way is necessary, and the bank has agreed to move forward on that basis.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions or comments? I'll close the public hearing at this time. Is there a motion on all three tabs? Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallman?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Lossner.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Tab 11.
An ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending Chapter 22.5 Retirement Plans, Article to Police Officers Retirement Plan, in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement between the city and the Dade County Police Benevolent Association for the period of October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2016, by amending Section 22.5.21 definitions to revise the definition of average final compensation, providing for repeal, providing for severability, providing for inclusion in the code, providing for an effective date.
Report from staff.
Second reading.
Second reading. Is there any report from staff? Lou? Kate?
I'm sorry, I couldn't get the microphone to work. Yes, staff recommends that mayor and council approve the attached ordinance amending the police officer's retirement plan as per the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Homestead and the Dade County Police Benevolent Association, ratified on December 17, 2014. It would amend the definition of the average final compensation for employees eligible to retire or enter the drop on or before September 30th, 2012, to exclude payment for leave accumulated after September 30th, 2012, and amend the definition of average final compensation for employees who are not eligible to retire or enter the drop on or before September 30th, 2012, to exclude payments for all accumulated leave. The approval of this ordinance will result in a decrease of the total required city-state contribution of 2.16% of covered payroll.
Questions from council? This is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing at this time. You're welcome to speak for or against this. Come forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion for approval? Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallman? Yes. Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab 12.
This is a very long title. I'm going to try to read it very quickly, if that's all right with the mayor. An ordinance of the City of Homestead, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances by amending Chapter 30 Zoning, Article 3, District Regulations, Division 10, BA1, Professional Business Restricted District, Section 3241, Uses Permitted, amending Division 11B1, Restricted Retail Commercial District, Section 3256, Uses Permitted, amending Division 12B2, Retail Commercial District, Section 3276, Uses Permitted, amending Division 23, Planned Urban Neighborhood District, Section 3396-2, Sub-Areas, Division 14, Business Mixed-Use District, Section 3396-501, Uses Permitted, amending Division 25, Neighborhood Mixed-Use District, Section 3396-532, Uses Permitted, amending Article 4, Supplemental District Regulations, Division 1, Generally, Section 3397, Permitted Use and Dimensional Standards Tables, amending Article 4, Supplemental District Regulations, Division 8, Special Exceptions, Section 3531, established all to provide that schools should not be permitted as special exception uses in commercial zoning districts, removing schools from the uses permitted, providing severability, inclusion in the code, conflicts, and effective date.
A report from staff. Joe?
We recommend doing what Richard just said.
Okay.
No, we recommend the approval of this item. This is an item that we've been researching for a while. This is the amendment to the code, which an ordinance was passed in 2008, which allowed charter schools or schools in areas outside of the residential areas. We were asked to go look at this. We studied it. We took it to the education committee. We took it to a CAL. And what we've done is go back to the pre-existing condition to where we are allowing the schools in the residential areas. And by that, we're still filling state and federal mandates. By doing that, we're taking them out of the commercial areas, and we're recommending approval of this.
Questions from council?
Yes.
Mr. Williams.
Let me register myself.
Mr. Williams, go ahead, sir.
So let me understand this. You're saying that throughout the boundaries of Homestead, schools, period, or charter schools?
Schools.
Schools. That includes daycares?
Yes.
Does daycares fall under the umbrella of schools?
Right. Anything that we would consider school.
So you would permanently redact them out of the commercial areas?
Correct.
And only allow in residential areas?
Correct.
Throughout the entire city?
Correct.
Talk to me about this state statute, and you're saying meeting the...
Let me make a correction. Am I correct? Daycares are not included in the definition of school. So this would be I guess kindergartens through 12th grade.
Okay.
Am I correct on that? Okay.
All right.
I'm correct on that.
All right. Talk to me about the state statute of still meeting the state statute when you mentioned in your brief report.
We need to be able to provide schools in close proximity to residential areas, and that's the requirement that we have. And we're doing that by maintaining the ability for anyone to locate a school in our residential areas, our districts.
So in some of the areas in which you are well familiar with, residential could be right across the street from that commercial. In my district, I'll take example.
Okay.
In my area is an industrial kind of area / residential. Where would a school be located in the Southwest?
In the residential areas.
Only in residential.
Correct.
So in the areas that are industrial, whatever, that may be more conducive for traffic and all of that, this is a whole overlay of the whole. That's my problem, is that it's a complete overlay of the entire city, where there could be a commercial property within the residential area across the street that they should be better utilized than within some. I guess I just have a problem with a whole complete overlay of the whole city like that, you know. And I don't know further. Let me state my purpose why I'm saying that. I agree with this piece of cleaning up, but then what I don't agree with is just a complete removal of commercial throughout the entire city. So how do we find a happy medium, or is that possible?
Well, Joe, to the councilman's question, what is the process for special exception, a variance? I mean, is there a tool at your disposal that would allow someone to approach you and ultimately approach this council for some opportunity of leeway, let's just call it?
Or we had them as special exceptions in the commercial areas before, which didn't mean that you had to approve them. You would take them all on an individual basis.
Right.
And so we've analyzed that, and we're now removing that. So they'll be permitted in the residential areas, but not any longer. They're not a permitted use. Won't be a permitted use any longer in the commercial areas.
Mayor, can I?
Go right ahead.
So no permitted use and no petition to make an exception of such, right? Is that what I'm hearing? No.
Correct.
Well, we did have that too before. That also just about, you know, that going into commercial, that there were tools that we could utilize to deny a school or however within the commercial areas. So I'm just concerned within the Southwest area, where a school will go within my area, where we're limited in landlocked. We don't have any place to put it. There could be a place within the industrial, whatever, within my confines of my area, that they could put a school, which I'm not advocating any more schools in Homestead at all, because I think we have a proliferation of them already. I think we made that objective completed. But then at the same time, I don't know about a complete overlay of the entire of that. I guess what my concern is.
Joe?
We could include the Southwest neighborhood in the areas of permitted areas where we would include schools as special exceptions. So for instance, the proposal is to allow them in R1, 2, 3, 4, and agricultural area. We could simply add to that Southwest neighborhood overlay district, and that may satisfy the concern.
Okay. Okay. All right.
We get another comment here.
I'll release it. I thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. The only question I have, though, is I know that we went through this, you know, I guess the genesis of this is the fact that we have so many schools, and we've had this discussion at the CAL, and I think, you know, Councilman Williams and myself have advocated for this over time now, that we have way too many schools. It's causing congestion and problems of that nature. But I do know that when we went through these processes for these schools, the charter schools or whatever it was by special exception in these commercial districts, there were some schools that I didn't think fit in certain areas. And when I came to staff and asked you specifically, can we prevent this from occurring? And I was given a direct answer, no, that we could not. Because if they meet the basic requirements of the special exception that we've laid forth, we as a body cannot deny them without being subject to legal remedies for them. The schools would have won. They would have had every right to be there if they meet the basic special exception. So that was the problem we ran into, is that with the current framework that's in place right now, there was no way to stop the proliferation of schools. So if one came to us tomorrow under the current framework and they wanted to go in a commercial corridor that we didn't think fit that corridor, yes, as a policy, we could just say no for the sake of saying no. But my understanding from staff and from legal was that it would not stand up to the legal scrutiny. They would be able to do exactly what they wanted to do because our special exception requirements were such that they would meet them. And so therefore it took away that flexibility. There was no way for us to actually stop it. So that was why this came forward, was this was the only way that we could actually say no to these schools without being subject to legal lawsuits.
I got you.
Now, there may be a way to look into that going forward to find a way to allow, again, if we decide in the future that the city needs to, again, reopen up the avenue for schools, but that was my understanding then, so that was the whole reason for the genesis of this.
Yeah, keep in mind that if at some point in the future, I mean, this is just like you're changing the zoning ordinance now, which just takes 2 readings, 2 meetings, and it's changed. If at some point in the future there's a need for additional schools, then this ordinance can again be amended to allow them either in a certain area or a special, you can reinstitute. This is sort of closing the door, but it doesn't prevent you even at a next meeting or of partially opening up the door or totally opening up the door again. It's just where the council is at this moment.
And we actually had this further discussion at the CAL where there was some debate, myself included, saying, you know, is there a way to even maybe further restrict the way that schools come in and where they can go? And so I know that we give staff some direction that we would pass this in its current form so we can at least salvage what we have left of our commercial corridors and kind of slow the tide of this onslaught of schools, and then come back and relook at other ways to maybe differently regulate these schools, whether it be by further restricting them, whether it be by creating certain zones that we want schools to be located in, or additional infill later on. So that was discussed, as well as future steps being taken to further amend this, but at least this would stop the current
proliferation of the school.
And then we can work on it as we go forward.
Okay.
Ms. Wallman, and, did you quit? Okay.
Can I respond?
Mr. Williams, go right ahead, sir.
Back to Vice Mayor. So would there be a problem if I take out my area? No, I'm asking, would that be an issue because I don't have an abundance of schools in my, other than,
yeah, I mean, for me, it's the only concern is I worry about the unintended consequences, because if 5 schools were to come down the pipeline and we have no way of stopping any of them, then we're back into the same problem. While the Southwest is facing the same problems that some of us on the East Side are having and the Northwest Side are having, and that is the proliferation of schools. So I think it'd be better served, again, it's you as the advocate can advocate for it, but my only concern would be that I don't think that the current framework is in place that would provide the protections that you would want to have a well-planned construction of schools within your district versus just having a bunch of them rush in there. You know, right now schools have kind of slowed down, which is good, but they could do it. So that would be my only concern. You might think about, again, maybe recrafting some language with staff that specifically addresses rather than having all commercial districts within your Southwest, maybe you go through with them, look at a map, and pick specific areas.
Right, well, that's what I like to do.
Yeah, and then that way you could come back and amend
that
it.
way I don't handicap the initiative and what we're trying to do, but at the same time, I don't cut off my nose of nose of spite, but whatever the term is, I don't know. But that I'm giving that they're giving geographical areas within the Southwest that they can go, and because I'm looking in my mind at the residential area, and I don't see where any property is available for a school from Lucia Street to Campbell, other than where it is now on US 1 with whatever that school is. But that's it. That's the only last school I have in charter school, or a school in my area that's new. Can't think of any other ones.
And what we could always do, it is a first reading, correct? So we could always pass it in its current form, and that gives you time to sit with staff and then maybe come back with a carve out that we can work with.
That's fine.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I agree. A question we always had an unintended consequence of when we allowed schools to go into commercial corridors. When a school goes in, it creates circles of uses that now cannot conform because the school takes the precedent. If you wanted to open up a restaurant and serve beer and wine or something like that, is that still part of the code that you have a 300-foot radius?
Yes, sir. When we have a certificate of use to sell beer or wine, we need to take into account churches and schools, and we do that. Sometimes there are location variances that we can give depending on the individual situation, so we look at them all individually.
Well, the two concerns from my perspective, and I appreciate Mr. Williams' concern, is every time we allow a charter school or a school to go into a commercial corridor, it takes that commercial corridor, it takes that valuation of income, tax income to the city off the tax rolls, which is what funds the police and some of the other things that you know, as we can see, a lot of our retail corridors, because of our policy, have been, you know, kind of consumed with some charter schools that maybe could have fit someplace easier or better, and that property, that retail corridor, that commercial corridor would have been able to stay on the tax roll as opposed to going off the tax roll. So that's a concern from my perspective as we move forward. But I think we can do exactly what you said, Mr. Williams, and move this forward. Mr. Attorney?
Yeah, I think that what Vice Mayor Shelley was referring to is that one of the things that the statute does not allow the council to consider is the need for the school. So you're dealing with just the normal things, compatibility, traffic, those kind of things. And so those schools where they were proposed, maybe the city didn't feel like they were needed, but they did meet the special exception criteria. But I think that what you've talked about in terms of perhaps carving out certain districts, certain areas that are exempt, that are going to remain with the special exception process, would address Councilman Williams' concerns, but also allow you to move ahead and sort of close the door for now on the other areas.
Mr. Williams?
So, Richard, what you're saying is that there's not a process that allow us to determine whether there's an actual need for that school to go there.
It's prohibited.
It's prohibited from us to determine that we need another school. Right. So that is determined by state to say that
the charter schools are governed by a Florida statutory criteria, and they list the things that local governments consider in terms of charter schools, and one of the things that's not listed is need. So it'd just be, you know, if a charter school operator feels like there's a commercial market for a charter school, the city is not able to say, we disagree with you, we have too many schools, we have too many student positions, so we're not allowed to do that.
So in other words, this legislation or ordinance will cut out the very needs under them on where they can go as far as commercial, where they can't go any commercial period at this moment in time, which, as Mayor Porter has said, eats up our tax base, or takes them off the property tax roll. For us, where we were getting property tax, now we get nothing at all because there have been, you know, as a school, which we know don't pay, of course, property taxes. So I'm okay then, based on the conversation today, to not make any adjustments to this at all. That way we can do, and if it does come, there's a boisterous community cry out, then hopefully we will be amenable to look at the area in which it's current form going. Okay, I'm fine. Then I won't need to meet with staff on this. Nothing.
Okay, so any other questions at this point? Well, I'm going to open up the public hearing. This is a public hearing. You're welcome to speak for or against this item. I see none. I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments? Is there a motion?
Move it.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Burgess?
Yes.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wallman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Tab
16.
16.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing the purchase of 5 Panasonic Toughbook computers for the City of Homestead Police Department, recognizing applicable exemption from engaging in competitive bidding pursuant to City Code Section 2411.5A5, exemptions from competitive bidding, providing for an effective date.
Staff report.
Mayor, this is in conjunction with what we've spoken about at the CAL and the 5 new police officers. This will accommodate hiring those.
So this is to give the 5 new officers that are going to be hired
Correct,
the
yes.
tools they need, so.
Move it, Mayor.
Is there a second? Moved and is there a second? Second. Any questions from council? Mr. Williams?
Yes. Wasn't here at the last count, so did we give clear direction to hire 5 new officers within the new budget year? We did. Or within this year, and then to roll over? Okay. And that these 5 notebooks will go to that. Are there any other equipment that will be needed besides these?
Major?
We presently have vehicles to have put them in initially. Eventually, when the new budget's presented, we will be requesting vehicles for them specifically.
5 new vehicles in addition?
That's correct, sir. You know, most of, from my understanding, meetings with command staff and specifically the chief has indicated that he's probably going to be hiring and naming the individuals hired from within our current reserve program. So they already have, you know, their gun
equipment
belt.
and all
Most
that.
of the equipment they have, they'll have to be issued some additional uniforms. But the majority of equipment, other than what we're here before you tonight on, which is the laptops, they already will have.
Can I just ask, Mayor, can I just ask another question? I know we're talking about the laptops. Major, was this always a plan of action to come midstream, a mid-year budget to?
No, sir, it was
What
not.
brought, because I'm sorry, I was not privileged to ask these questions at the count.
Through command staff meetings that we have on a weekly basis with the chief and the rest of the command staff, we normally review the calls for service and have seen a considerable increase along with some crime patterns that are increasing and concern us to be able to provide the proper service and address some of those issues.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. At this time, this is a public hearing. I'll open up the public hearing on tab 16. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Any final comments? There was a motion and a second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilman Williams?
Yes.
Councilman Burgess? Yes. Councilwoman Waldman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Shelley?
Yes.
Mayor Porter?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. Item tab 17, Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm so appreciative for my colleagues' time, and I must apologize to you. It should not be in your package, and this is my error, not anything from the clerk or my staff. This is my error or oversight to look at this, to word it in such a way that it could be offensive or could be looked at as a police issue, which it is not. And it says discussion action plan for Southwest, policing Southwest. That's really not what it is. So I want to say that to calm all fears. What I have done has talked with the manager, the police command staff, maybe a month ago, and I presented to them an action plan based on the model of building sustainable and healthy neighborhood initiatives. The police has just a small fraction within this plan. It is not a plan that will ask for more police areas for my area. It is not that intent. The intent is a 4-phase process that identifies community and mobilizes community partners, and it identifies stress or distress or targeted areas within the community and mobilize stakeholders. So we're talking about community leaders, ministerial alliance, those that have a critical direct impact on that. That's phase 1. Phase 2 is what we call reclaiming the community to rid the targeted location of street disorder and other conditions and activities that create fear and affect the quality of life within the district. And then phase 3 is restoring and revitalizing the community to change physical, social, and economic conditions that enable crime activity to thrive in the community. And then the last phase was sustainable success. And the goal is to sustain the success long-term through ongoing services delivered and through the efforts of organized and active community. So in this model, it really does not say police involvement, or it really is a plan within the community within itself. So it's not like a plan to mobilize police to do something. That is not the intent of what I have put together in your packet. It is a citizen engagement, those citizens who will live within the area. And this component actively involves citizens in a strategic plan process and gives them the mechanism to express their concerns and vision through the city with the Southwest Advisory Board, for example, for town hall meetings. And then it's really cleaning up the area, which is phase 2, neighborhood streets. When you understand that when you eliminate bulk trash, junk, abandoned automobiles, and I even put into your car or your packet some areas of housing that has been on the books to be demolished over a 5-year. I mean, we've been talking about demolishing these buildings that need to, that will really just clean up the face of the Southwest. And so I put those in your packet so that you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about and what I mean by kind of hurry up and moving forward the process of demolishing these buildings that has been in the pipeline for quite some time. And so the other issue, the other phase of it is civic involvement, which is the goals of two related themes: inactive public access to information from us, the government, or from our local municipality, the county, or what have you, and then spreading the message about the government in a public forum in which people can be more engaged in. So this has nothing really to do with a redefining of community policing at all. So I want to ease all fears with that. I do list that community residents and representative grassroots organizations are participating in problem-solving meetings with police and other agencies, and community members are trying to hold a viable cleanup. This is all a goal that we're trying to do of our community events and neighborhood involving police and other. But last not least, police, other government agencies, representative community members, to learn one another, our neighbor, who our community policing is, whatever, so that we can begin to deter crime within the area. And the only reason I brought this forward in this capacity, in this way, because I wanted to bring awareness to my colleagues that I need your assistance or help in kind of mobilizing, to staff, that this is an urgent matter to get rid of some of these dilapidated buildings that has, as statistically we know, that when you have a dilapidated area, blighted area, it does draw in crime, as it makes it seem psychologically that it's an area that is not cared for and they can do what they want as it relates to crime. So we can eliminate just some of that. That will help me within the area that will make Homestead better and a safer place for everybody. And so that's really why I brought this up, not to put the police on the spot or say I need more police, but to really put the investment to get rid of some of these dilapidated buildings that are inhabitable, unsafe. And so that's my purpose and goal with this whole discussion. Okay? Thank you. I'll take any questions or anything.
Let me ask a question of Steve, CRA. If we've got dilapidated buildings, where would obviously if they've been marked for demolition, who normally pays for that? How would we fund that?
I can't answer that question historically. I know that we do have funds in the CRA earmarked for demolition services. It is part of our budget. I'm not sure whether it's all taken, all spoken for at this time, but we do have a line item in our budget for demolition services. And as a matter of fact, we had an RFP out on the street, and we've received 3 responses from demolition companies, and there's a selection process going on right now as we speak. So we'll have those companies on board in the near future.
Okay, Vice Mayor, then Mr. Williams.
Yeah, I was just following up on that, because I know that when we passed that in the budget, that was 4 years ago or something like that, there was a lot of immediate action. We'd taken down some buildings that needed to be taken down. Some were in the downtown, some were in the other areas of the city. And then I don't remember seeing anything happen over the last couple of years as far as additional demolition of buildings, but that was our priority then. I know that's more CRA related than say this, but it's all part of it. So I would echo that I think that we need to start that. There's some in the Northwest neighborhood as we speak that are outside of the CRA, but are still, very much so eyesores in some of these neighborhoods that need to be taken out, destroyed, and at least left as a vacant lot. And then it ties into some of the code and some of the other issues too, both I know in the Southwest, but in the Northwest as well. If we're talking about the way that this neighborhood looks affects the way people react to that neighborhood. So I say there's equal issues in the Northwest that also need to be addressed on that front.
Well, I mean, certainly as it relates to properties in the CRA, I know that we have funding, and we have vendors now, or that will shortly be signed up and ready to go. I can't speak for properties outside.
Yeah, I was going to say, if I can get someone, follow up on the properties again, because as this relates to the Northwest, a lot of ours are outside of the CRA. I know there's a code enforcement process that gives us the permission to condemn them and then destroy these buildings. How does that work outside?
I think I might be able to speak to that. When we did the bid process for this round of demo services, we included it for both city and CRA. When it pertains to outside of the CRA, the question is funding and how that works. We haven't had, when I was at the CRA, we just did CRA buildings. We will have the ability to use these vendors to do outside of the CRA. It's just a question of figuring out the funding.
Okay. All right.
Mr. Williams?
Might I add some light onto that, Vice Mayor? Is that and this is by no indication of failure within our system or individual. But we find money for a lot of things. Surely we can find, what will be the average cost to demolish a building? Maybe no more than 20 grand or something like that.
If I remember correctly, when we did the first round in the CRA, depending on a single-family smaller home cost about 10.
Yeah.
The big pink building that was I can't remember the exact address, but not too far from Flagler. That
The
was
old Fico Williams building, the old Fico Williams.
That was
housing.
That was it? Yes.
Yes.
That was about 37,000. But
Okay.
then again, that was at a time when there wasn't a lot of construction
Right,
going on in the county, so.
Mayor, may I continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The chief and I had a conversation, and chief has had an opportunity to ride around within the area, and I don't know if he want to, put his plan of action on the record as what we have talked about as relates to code and all of that. That they have already started remediating a lot of the issues, and so I just would like that, once we start something, just like that, we continue follow through and follow up with it. That's all, so that it will continue to be consistent, and that any other concerns that my neighbor has within the Northwest, that we can do to make sure that these things, if it's a line item in the budget of $100,000, I'm pretty sure we can find that somewhere, to start cleaning up and we represent the historic part of Homestead. So we have a lot of older buildings that just does not, look very proper within our area. And if we're trying to redevelop downtown, sometimes they pass through Flagler or pass through my area to get there, and they're looking at this on the side and say, well, how can they be billing all of this and these items over here are not conducive to ISO? So I welcome any constructive feedback or any constructive criticism moving forward with this plan. That's all.
Ms. Wallman?
As I look at these pictures, they're pathetic. I
Yeah.
mean, it's horrible. And we can't clean up crime until we get rid of crime buildings. And I can imagine what goes on in these buildings.
Yeah.
So as far as I'm concerned, there's no question about it. You know, you want to clean your city up, there's only one way to clean it up, and that's get rid of properties that are not conducive to the community that they're in. So that's really all I want. I think everybody said everything else. I mean, but I do think that particularly in the Southwest and the North and some areas of the Northwest, that's where you have your problem.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where you have the majority of your crime.
Right.
So to me, there's no question about it. And for those of you that haven't seen them, you should see them.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mr. Burgess?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Williams, you've given us 7 photos, I believe, is the total here. How many properties do you think there truly are that would fall under the guidelines that you're trying to set tonight? I mean, I know, I'm sure that there's more.
There are more.
You just gave us.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, we have a couple of buildings on a building on 11th Street that was arsenic, you know, burned, and it's just grass grows up all around it. Of course, the property owner is not responsible. We had to lean the property, cut the property down. Then there's a house right across the street from that on the same street. So, Mr. Bird, it's sporadic. I would say about maybe 20 within just the residential area. And we're not talking about the commercial aspect of it.
Right.
But just,
and
you know,
or any of
even
these,
if you ride on 4th Street, we had a gentleman come up tonight, one of his buildings are the ones that need to be delayed, torn down. You know, so.
Are any of these homes or buildings, quote unquote, still residences for people?
Absolutely not. No.
Just nothing but vagrants or
Vagrants
whatever.
or code is putting up, or we're using the prisons to board it up, you know, and it really is just need to be, you know, just bulldozed down because, you know, we've leaned them so many times, the liens and fines on them. Nobody ever going to buy the property because
nobody
can afford it, and that's a depressed area, so it's not going to yield any kind of major investment.
Fully understand. Okay. Well, I saw this. I just wanted to make sure that we're going to cover the whole project if we're going to cover it.
Yeah. No, it's more than this. I just want to give you a picture.
You've got a plan that's laid out to go in. You said the chief's going to ride around with you and
he's already done that.
People and identify and target the areas that need it the most. So
yes. So in other words, I'm not taking phone calls to start the process because somebody has to say no and we're moving forward. And I just need to have my colleagues back to say that we agree with what needs to take place. That's all, what I'm trying to get from you all.
No, I agree. It needs to take place, and you know, this timeline may be a little bit aggressive for what we have financially and all, but that you've got to come in trying.
Right, I got to try something.
Yeah. Right. You know, and I've said it once, I've said it twice. We need to be more aggressive throughout the city.
Yeah, of course,
and you made reference to it tonight as we build this new city hall. You look across the street, and I take people down there, and they're in disbelief of what one side of Washington Avenue has versus the other. And they ask me, excuse my French, they say, what in the hell are you guys doing spending that much money on this building? Yet we have this across the street. So, and I know,
and all of us in the Southwest.
I know that the chief and his people have been out, and I asked them over a year ago, let's start an education program, a campaign, instead of hitting these poor people with just a summons or a come to, or, you know, you owe us $200 or whatever. We need to educate them. We need to make sure and I know the CRA is working with them over there, and we've got programs in place. My hope is those programs are done before we cut the ribbon over there on the new building, because that's what needs to be done. And I know that's aggressive and all that, but that needed to be done when the ground was broken for the city hall At that time, those CRA projects needed to be kicked into gear, high overdrive, to make sure they were done on Washington Avenue. Because it is a disgrace to see what we're building, yet when people come down there, they look across the street and see the total opposite from one side of the street to the other. And the disrepair in the middle of those roads and all down there, and that's going to be our grand court. We've got a lot of work to do. And I don't know who's going to do it, but there needs a lot of work downtown to match what the plan is that's been set forth by this management team and this council. A lot of cleanup work, a lot of sod, a lot of trash pickup, everything. And I'll leave it at that. But this is a start for the Southwest and that whole area, and I totally agree with it. But we need to look citywide also.
Absolutely.
As we start this project tonight. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Have we looked into it from a legal perspective? And we can foreclose on some of these properties, right, based on these liens, and then we can acquire them, demolish them, and then resell them and hopefully recoup most of our monies. I mean, given the market. Now, some areas I know it may be more depressed on, but you think we'd at least be able to recoup some of the monies that's spent toward the demolition. So if we could maybe look into that process to see, because again, I'm thinking as far as the Northwest goes, I don't have the CRA. Some of the CRA comes in the Northwest for some of these properties, but there are other properties I know are outside of the CRA. And also citywide, I'm sure other districts have similar problems too that are older in nature. So it'd be nice to be able to see what our options are through code, through legal processes, so that we can start maybe acquiring these properties and again, cleaning up some of our older areas, the Southwest, the Northwest, because I see, you know, the better it looks, the better the city looks, the better the streets look, the better the neighborhoods look, the more respect the city's going to get, and the more respect people are going to give those particular areas. So I think it's definitely critical that we shift our focus toward that.
Well, I agree with everyone. I think the Vice Mayor kind of hit the nail on the head. If we've got abandoned properties and we can demolish it and take it back for the price of the liens on it and move it, roll it back into a higher and better use for the community, I think that's what we need to do. Just avoiding addressing the problem is, you know, it's not an option any longer. And I think that it's clearly, there is a huge amount of blight in the Southwest neighborhood that we need to address. Just walking away from the problem and turning the other way, or in the case of just continuously citing and citing and citing and citing and nothing ever happening, we need to cite, demolish, acquire, and repurpose. I think that would be the best way for us to address the problem. And I know Richard's already got that. But I think that's a tool we need to start using. I mean, front the money, we as council members have control over the budget. If we want to put something in the budget, we put it in the budget. Right. And then we ask staff to adjust accordingly. So the tools are at our disposal. But just walking away consistently from the problem is not an option. Mr. Burgess?
Thank you. Mayor, if I could, I know that a lot of people this summer from this council are going to be possibly going to a 10-day conference in the Palm Beach area. And I've spent the better part of the last 6 weeks in Riviera Beach, which was one of the most rundown areas I'd ever seen in my life. In fact, I was scared to stop at stoplights up there during the day for a long time when I was doing business up there. But they have taken that place around, and over the last 2 years, turned it into a place where you feel safe. It's clean. The businesses that are there, those that didn't want to participate, have moved on because the city demolished their buildings because they weren't up to par or whatever, and that they've taken their city back. And if we're looking for a place to go look and maybe get ideas or suggestions of how they did it, that might be somewhere that our staff can reach out to, is up there. And I mean, we thought we had bad signage problems down here with banners and all that flying. You couldn't drive down the road without something flopping over onto your car because the signs were falling down everywhere up there. Today, there's not one banner or one illegal sign along that Highway 1 corridor up there. And that street is thriving from the bridge north, with new businesses moving in, and just the aesthetics of that whole place, it makes you feel welcome and all that. Granted, they do have the waterfront, which is part of their district and their city there, but that is something that they've taken back too, and the city has invested millions in with the other government entities that have taken place. Their CRA, the federal government's come down there, but the local businesses have bought into it too, and are building and reaching out to make things better too. So if we need some ideas or something like that, perhaps we can reach out to Riviera Beach, because they've done an outstanding job over the last 2 years of reclaiming their city and making it into something that people want to go and stop at and partake in. So I'll leave it at that.
So, Kate, Rick, you guys have direction from the council on how to approach
Yes, Mayor,
this?
yes, absolutely.
Because it's...
We can start by identifying the properties, understanding the process and what we can do, and perhaps following up, as Councilman Burgess suggested, to see how other municipalities have handled situations like this. And also, with respect to the budget, properties in or out of the CRA, we can, depending on what kind of numbers we're up against, we can come back to council with an understanding of what it may mean in terms of a budget.
And I think we need to use every tool in the bag, every opportunity we can to, clean up a blighted situation citywide, and specifically, as Mr. Williams is talking about, the Southwest community, because it is in deplorable situation. So, you okay, Mr. Williams?
Yes, can I make my closing closing statement? Let me just say now, we've come a mighty long way too. I'm not saying that we have not turned the ground, because I remember when I first elected, it was worse. But as time goes and I settle in, and I was a little bit more rambunctious when I first was elected, and a little bit more, But as fatherhood is taken, you become a little bit more relaxed and your priorities shift. So I'm just trying to stay on top of what I was elected to do, to turn that area around, along with the whole city's envision, And like I said, I'm not trying to step on anybody's toes or saying a job is not being done. I'm just saying now we need to be a little bit more aggressive in our approach. And if that means, because I'm looking forward, the CRA is going to expire within another 10 years or so. And then what can we say we have done over the 30-year period with that? And so I'll be back under a different mantra as it relates to funding anyway. So, I want to try to get a lot of these things out of the way before our CRA sets, and because we're limited, time is not on our side anymore as it relates to that. So we're on a downshift. So I appreciate the honesty, the discussion. I appreciate your points, and I thank staff for recognizing and going forward within this. And I do apologize that it should not say Southwest District Policing, but it should just say Southwest District Concerns. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, we're going to business from the manager. Anyone?
Nothing, Mayor.
Nothing, Kate? City Attorney, Mr. Attorney?
Just a brief comment, which you can't make, but I can. I mean, if you think about what happened here at the beginning of the meeting, with a United States congressman, a Miami-Dade County commissioner, the mayors of 4 or 5 cities in South Dade come to Homestead to seek your support and your participation in what they're doing. I mean, that's a monumental event. I mean, I've been sitting here a long time. To have that kind of brass come down here and talk to you and ask for your support, I think is really an indication of how far, echoing what Councilman Williams said, how far the city has come in terms of prestige and understanding that, with the mayor sitting on the MPO, that the city is a force to be reckoned with. The president of the Dade League of Cities sitting here on the dais, so it's I didn't want the moment to pass without saying something like that. And obviously you can't say it about yourselves, but I can.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney. That's so unlike you. To be nice. To be nice.
To be nice, yeah. Well, I'm nice.
Let us all get up off the floor. We fell out of our chairs. Thank you, Richard, though. But it is true. And, when we talk about ourselves, we got to realize Homestead's the 5th largest city in Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
It's a pretty substantial statement when you think about Miami, Miami Beach, Miami Gardens, Hialeah. We're a big city, and we got big problems. But we've got big opportunities at the same time. And so that's what we've got to do, is focus on the opportunities and address the problems. So, and it was very nice to have everyone show up in solidarity for the one issue that really is our issue: transportation. Reports from Mayor and Council. Mr. Burgess. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mayor. And I know my words were harsh earlier, but it's because I feel it in my heart. We're doing great things here, but I think we're missing some of the details on some of the stuff because we're looking just entirely at the big picture. And I think the details bring things together and make it a complete picture at the end of the day. And I think that we need to, maybe some of the smaller things that will make downtown more comfortable as people start to migrate that way, I think are being overlooked with the plans that are in place. Or if they're not, they haven't been shared with me, and I don't see any of them in action downtown. So my words are not directed at anybody directly. It's just my passion for what we're doing and my passion for attention to detail. And I think we need to pay particular attention to some things downtown that have been overlooked and continue to be overlooked a year after some suggestions have been made. So you opened the can of worms tonight, Mr. Williams, and they jumped out. But anyway, let me go back and thank a couple people. Mr. Cordino, Mr. Maytan, thank you. You guys have taken a dilapidated building down from my side of town.
Congratulations.
So, you know, the squeaky wheel, Jimmy, I stayed after them for 4 or 5 months, and they finally surrendered. But we did get a dilapidated building down from over there on the east side of town. That was a place that was falling down literally as a car had tried to drive through it, and the kids were over there tearing down what the car hadn't knocked down. So thank you to them. I want to thank the chief and his total staff, Major Kennedy. The Florida City Police also helped this weekend. I know the residents in the fairways have really had a lot of trouble with the four-wheelers year after year. They've been coming to us and discussing the noise issues and the problems they have with those people swimming across the canal, taking their lawn furniture, using it on the other side of the canal, and doing other things like that. Unfortunately, I know that our police department was out there this week, and the people sent a great big thank you to you, Chief, and all your officers that were out there partaking of the duties that you had given them. So with that, and then Mr. Brea, one more thing. We're coming up on our year anniversary of when our light for Pacific and Kingman Road were supposed to start, and I know the county's slow, and we're almost there.
We're on top of them. We actually have a meeting with them next week, and that's one of the items that's number one on the list.
Should I send an anniversary card down with you? Because I know last year we were told by JLI we would have something and the grounds would be broken, and here we are, 60 days away, and we've got no ground broken and nothing in place, and yet there's more traffic on that road now than there was a year ago, and I think that the chief and his traffic units could tell you there's more accidents at that intersection now, and because of the lack of light, than there are a year ago. So please stress to them that we need it now, sooner than later, and if you think my anniversary card will help, I certainly will send it to Dr. Shen. Thank you. Mayor, that's all.
Thank you, Mr. Burgess. Mr. Williams.
Oh, okay. Mayor. Thank you so much, Mayor.
I'm looking at the wrong book.
Yeah, I digress to my colleague who's before me.
I'm sorry, Mr. Williams. I'm looking at
That's okay.
the wrong, a modified agenda
That's
here.
fine.
Ms. Wallman?
You can go ahead.
No, go ahead, my dear.
Julio, when you go down there to talk about that situation that Mr. Burgess just mentioned, please mention the turn light at 162nd and North Canal, because that is a nightmare. I see accidents. I mean, there's a turn light one way, but not the other way, and I've mentioned it over and over and over, and the situation is getting worse and worse because the traffic's getting worse and worse, and because of the construction. It's going to be a real nightmare when that happens. Mayor, I really don't have a whole lot to say, except that I want to say thank you to the Homestead Police Department, greatest police department in the world. Had the best community policing event in Audubon Park. Over 1,200 people, if you can believe it, were there. We were jamming. I mean, the music was fantastic, and everything from snow. I mean, y'all just went overboard. I mean, I tried to help, but you did the majority of it. Snow cones, bounce houses, just everything from the canines to just everybody and everything. Thank you so much. Community, it wasn't just our community, it was Keys Landing, Shores. I mean, I talked to people from all over who attended, and it was fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we got everything donated, which was amazing. So, and I just wanted to finish up by saying, don't count on Dennis and I doing much for the next month, because we've been kind of waiting for Military Appreciation Day, which I think is going to be fantastic. But we have to plan a 4th of July party for about 40,000 people, and you know, I've got it in my head what we're going to do. We've hired the bands, except I think maybe for one. Having a meeting tomorrow, and it's on a Saturday night, so I fear that we're going to have, and I say that with love, but I fear that we're going to have about 35,000 people either tailgating or in the stands, maybe more. And I've cut the Champions Club party down in size, so if you're going to buy tickets, you better buy them quick, because I guarantee you there will be none left. And this year, instead of doing the very solemn ceremonies that I've done over the years, it's just getting harder and harder to get people to give the respect by being quiet. And so this year the theme is Party in the USA. So we're going to have a dance floor, and we're going to have fun. We got a live band, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And that's what it's going to be about, just 4th of July family and entertainment. So tickets are going to go on sale when, Dennis? I don't remember.
June 15th.
June 15th for the VIP party, but everything else is free. Downstairs, I think the tickets are going to remain the same, $20 for 12 and up, and $15 for 6 to 12, yeah. So don't forget to buy them early, and that includes all y'all, because they're going to go fast. And Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
See you
Waldron.
next month.
Mr. Williams, sorry about that jumping.
All right,
jumping
no
to you there.
problem. I was catching up on what I was going to say. First of all, I want to ask a concern on Southwest 10th Street. There is between 10th and 9th Street. There are railroad tracks on that comes all the way down in the residential community. As a matter of fact, it comes all the way down into in front of a Free Will Baptist Church, Greater Williams Chapel. And I know that there were concerns that we have no jurisdiction over those railroad tracks. It has become very problematic and also very dangerous, because when they have cars or parking or kids that are playing within that vicinity of the church, I mean, it's right there almost on the church's property. If something was to happen, a child falls, who's responsible for that? Are the city responsible for that? If somebody was to get hurt and those tracks should be taken up or whatever, whose liability is that? Is that liability of the church? Is it a liability?
Are they live tracks, or are they just abandoned?
It's a lot. Well, half of the track, they still use it to whatever.
Oh, they do still use it.
They don't come all the way down because it stops, but it's still a usable track. But it didn't come that far down.
I've dealt with the railroad a lot. Over by the American Airlines Arena. I don't know if you know the tracks that are there, and it's a big problem. The railroads have tremendous power, legal power over their tracks, and I don't think it would be a city liability issue because we don't have any jurisdiction over those tracks.
So, yeah, okay.
But the railroad, they're not the easiest to deal with, but you can deal with them. I mean, I can give someone a name of somebody at the railroad to deal with.
Well, I wouldn't be calling them, but I think it's an issue. I think it's an issue that has to be addressed because some of the boards, some of the old tracks are still imprinted within there. And I'm just concerned over time if a child goes and falls or something, that it's just a large oversight, and I would feel responsible because I didn't say anything or do anything about it to my ability. And they have raised concerns over the years about it, but I'm looking now for a little bit more teeth in things. And so I guess, Richard, in your expertise,
you can give me a call so we can identify what we're talking about.
I'll take some pictures so you can get a concept of what I'm saying.
I'd be glad to help you.
Yeah, that way you can understand. But if many of you all may know that they've been there for years, but it's not an active track that comes all the way down. But the rails that they're not using, some I think could come up, or just I don't know, but. You remember okay, yeah. There's activity further up near FICO Williams, but that's it. It doesn't come past 4th Street. It doesn't come across the street on 4th Street. So just that area, in the residential part. If I don't know who I would direct that to. Yeah, take it out. Yeah, at least that part of it. I don't know who I need to direct that to, ma'am, or what staff person.
If you call me with the information and get me, I'll work with you.
Okay, all right. Let me also thank the mayor for your ingenuity and vision to do what you did tonight to, as Richard has said, choreograph that sense of command and respect for our city. And I've seen the MPO meetings on I can, I'm trying to figure out how they're keeping up with trying to keep quorum with 35-some people. So I've watched, the meetings over the years, and I would lose my mind trying to be functional on that board because I don't see how anybody get anything done. So don't take my questions tonight to be an attack on the project, but just trying to get more conceptual understanding of where the state fits in. So, Mayor, thank you for that. Mayor, I do have there is a vacancy on the Southwest Advisory Board. Do I register that with you or the clerk?
Madam Clerk, I think he sends that to you, correct?
We send that to you. Okay. So then you will take the recommendation. Okay. All right. So there is, I think, a vacancy on the board. And I think that's all of my, let me thank the police department for their ingenious help and the chief for jumping on those areas of concern that I brought to him, and also the staff for their invaluable service and what they do to make our job a little bit easier. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Just two quick items. First is Military Appreciation Day, as Councilwoman Walden mentioned, is coming this Saturday from 3 to 8 p.m. It'll be in downtown Homestead at Losner Park. It'll be like all the other years. Up and down Chrome will be static displays, food trucks. You'll have Humvees. Coast Guard will have their boats. Our SWAT team will be there as well with their vehicle. We'll have the Monroe Marauders up and down. So it'll be a really fun time to go and see all the displays. We have the live entertainment will be going on the stage, the vouchers for the military. So if you're there and you're an active or retired military person, you show your ID, you'll get a voucher from the Military Affairs Committee to be used on any of the food trucks as well as in any of the restaurants in Chrome Avenue. And this year, which is what we're most excited about, is this new feature, which is the military competition between the branches of the Homestead Air Reserve Base. So the Battle Frog is putting it on. So you'll be pulling a Humvee, you'll be doing a water walk, you'll have to go over a wall, then you have to come back in reverse, and then you do push-ups at the end for 100. It's teams of 4. The top prize gets the trophy, which we saw earlier over there, the Eagle, as well as the $1,200 cash prize, which they can take and spend on themselves or their family or whatever they decide to do. So it should be a really fun time. I encourage everyone to come out and enjoy and celebrate and honor our troops, our military men and women. The second item I have is also from military related. The Military Affairs Committee will be holding a meet and greet in which they will be honoring 35 World War II veterans on June 12th at Homestead Air Reserve Base. General Sontag will be the speaker and will present each veteran with a medal and a certificate thanking them for their service. It is open to the public. You just need to RSVP. I don't have that information here, but if you contact the Military Affairs Committee and you RSVP, you can get on the base and actually be there to help honor these World War II vets. There's not many of them left, so come out there and thank them for their service. Thank you, Mayor.
Mainly that contact is to get your name on the list at the gate so that the
they'll let
security.
May I ask you a question?
Ms. Wallman?
Do you have a program? I mean, do you have a timetable? I mean, what time is this competition? And where's it going to be? And
There is the competition will be right next to Losner Park on that streetway right next to the stage is where we'll start the competition in the park. It'll run out the street and then back and finish in the park so people can watch it. There is a timetable. I'll make sure that it goes out to all council so you guys know exactly when things are occurring. But it starts at 3. There's a K-9 demonstration. There's music. I think we have our opening ceremonies around 4:30ish or so, 4 o'clock. There's a flyover. So the F-16s will be flying down Chrome Avenue around 4 to 4:30. And then sometime immediately after that, you'll start the competition.
could you ask your assistant to put a little timetable, you know, so we'll know what time of it, because people are asking me and I.
Yes, I'll make sure that tomorrow we get that out to everybody so you know when to be there yourselves, also how to disseminate it to the public, and we'll make sure it gets on the city's Facebook page and other places so that people know exactly when things are occurring.
Okay, thank you.
So, thank you.
Stalzer?
Yes, thank you.
I've got requests for 2 appointments, Mr. Terry Little to the General Employee Pension Board and Gerald Pinnicky to the Planning and Zoning Board. If so inclined, could I ask for a motion on both?
Move it.
It's moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you so much, very much for that. I want to talk directly to the chief and say to you and your command staff, you've been complimented a lot tonight and well deserved, but I will say that I appreciate what you guys have done holding the line on employees. And, you know, just like the rest of the city, we said it in the state of the city, we've been doing more with less, covering more territory, still keeping up with the time, calls for service, and being honest and approaching a city manager when you needed something. And I commend you, you know, and your team for doing that. And I know you needed more. I know you wanted more. But you know, you came with an honest request and you got an honest answer. And kudos to the council members for, you know, being able to step up when you ask. And a mid-year adjustment is a significant thing for this council to do. But appreciate what you guys have done extra above and aboard. But, yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor, I just want to thank you all as well because, you know, we know what you all want, and I know you all want the best for this community, and it's my job as the police chief to bring that forward, which I did, and I appreciate what you all did because it was a great step, big step, necessary step, and it took a lot of, you know, a lot of courage to do that, but at least the community know that we all care about the safety and the welfare in this community. So I appreciate it again and thank you, but you know, one step at a time. So I appreciate it and we'll talk about it again down the road, but it was well appreciated and we have the people in place to make it happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and there's probably something else, but we would all probably like to go home, I'm sure. You lost a bet, Kate, on the time we were going to get out of here. So, is there a motion to adjourn?
Move it.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.